Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, Tyvis Powell, Jason Lloyd. Plus, ba-da-da-da-da, you're loving him, Mikey McNuggets. And so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show starts now. Booyah!
Oh,
he got one of them complimentary rally flags.
Now, I got to say, is there a rule that when you jump off a bandwagon during a Game 7, are you then allowed to wear the team's colors the next day?
Yeah,
G-Bush.
Throw that rally flag up. Throw that rally flag up.
Hey, you know.
Yeah, you talking about
Gee, you're not alone. I decided in the second quarter when it was an 18-point lead,
I couldn't watch it.
I could better spend my time cleaning my grill.
Listen,
which is what I did.
Listen, I went out and got some mats.
Some mats?
Yeah, I had to put some mats in my car.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it just wasn't. I was just like, you know what? I couldn't watch it. Like the way they came out in that first half, and I stand by what I said. That was atrocious. But
they made up for it.
They had a guy named Donovan Mitchell. And when you got a guy like Donovan Mitchell or a superstar.
They also had defense. I mean, I thought that they found the defensive switch that they really were unable to find for most of the series. Now, don't mistake Orlando's ineptness on offense as great Cavs defense.
Right.
Because we saw that at stretches through the first 6 games. What we saw in Game 7 was both. It was incredible in-your-shorts defense and some offensive ineptitude, too. Don't let Banchero get another – don't let him find his Robin because he's Batman.
That dude a dog.
And if he gets his Robin, this team's going to be a really tough out.
He's a dog. He is one of those primetime players.
Is he a unicorn?
He's a dog. He's a dog.
There's a lot of dogs. Yeah. There's only a few unicorns.
Yeah. I mean, big shot maker, tough shot maker. This was a dude who gave the Cavs problems all series long. Like, you know, you don't get an opportunity to watch Orlando all that often, but, you know, I knew he was good. That man really earned my respect this series.
Me too.
He earned my respect.
Because I knew he was a star.
Yeah.
He's got jump on my
had
back superstar. He just needed a Robin.
That's it.
And it was fun to watch the Wagner brothers completely melt down and disappear.
Yeah, man. Creamsicles.
That was fun to watch.
Creamsicles.
That was really fun to watch. Mike's back from his wedding. What's up, man? How were you watching, or did you watch Game 6?
I did watch Game 6. I didn't see much of the first half. That was during the ceremony and
Right.
dinner. But then the second half, there was a TV in like the groom's getting ready area that there's me and about 20 of the family members in there watching. So it was.
Were you
it
the
was
only
interesting.
Cavs fan?
Yes, and everyone else there's a Magic fan. So it was.
So that was awkward.
Didn't you get yelled at for that, McNuggets? That happened to me. Like, mind you, this is the same team, Orlando, right? This is the year that they beat the Cavs, upset them in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah.
And I had a wedding the night that LeBron hit that shot.
Oh, my God.
And everybody was in one of those rooms like McNuggets talked about, where the groom's room and the bride came down and found us in there, getting it going, watching that game. And she was not too happy because they were supposed. She was like, the dance floor is empty. You went up there. I was like, that's your problem, buddy.
Yeah.
You married her. I didn't marry her. I'm going to be in here till this shot goes up. Go ahead, McNuggets.
Yeah, I mean, the whole bride's family was the Magic fans.
Okay.
So
That makes it even worse.
In and out, yeah. She was watching with us, and obviously it was a heroic performance from Donovan Mitchell. No one else showed up. So they were very happy, and it was not as happy for me. But before we get into all this stuff today, we're going to break down Game 7. We'll look ahead to the Celtics series. We'll talk about Manzardo and Kwan. G, you alluded to this tweet earlier. So, Steve, take tag board full. Did you not watch the last 3 quarters, G? Because there's a couple tweets I want to just point out before we dive deep. Did you not watch?
See, you tapped out like you were like, I'm done.
This was at 1:34. Tip-off was 1:14. So this is 20 minutes of real time into the game.
Hey, listen, when you talk about the Duke and knee jerk, listen, I was sitting there on the treadmill. I was getting my cardio on, and they got the TVs up. And these boys was just, I mean, they got every loose rebound. They was getting beat off the dribble. Guys was wide open for threes. Ben Carroll looked like the second coming of a light-skinned LeBron James. He was 250. You couldn't do nothing with him. He was getting to the rack. LeBron Jones was killing us. And I was just like, I can't do this. This is a game 7. We at home. We don't got no energy. And I just turned it off. I went to Walmart. Went to Walmart.
You were still peeking at your phone, right?
No, went to Walmart.
Whoa, you gave up completely.
I cut it off.
Cut the cord.
Went to Walmart, got some floor mats, and I tried to hold my face so people wouldn't tell me what the score was. Right. If they notice you, they'll just, what about that? And I don't want to know. I went in, checked in. I checked out long lines. I checked out in electronics with all kind of car mats because I wasn't waiting in line. And got in my car, drove back home. My mom and dad was there. I get there, and it's halftime. And so at halftime, I'm looking around. I didn't want to ask them. They was like, man, you know they was down 20. I'm like, man, now they're down 30? They was like, no, we down 10. So I got to see the second.
Hell, I think it was 8, wasn't it?
Was it
8 or was it 10?
At half, it was 10.
Okay. So I got to see third quarter comes around, and then Donovan Mitchell puts the cape on.
So you did watch the second half.
Yes, but I didn't tweet though.
No, when you tweet what you tweeted, you're out.
You done for the day.
You said
you put yourself in timeout. Don't come back.
G. Bush out.
I'm out.
G, what's crazy is, and take the tweet again, that actually wasn't the craziest UCSS tweet from yesterday.
What was?
This. And I'm not going to tell you who tweeted it. Nudes in bio, hashtag let them know. And who tweeted this? Jason Lloyd tweeted this in the fourth quarter.
Wait a minute.
Jason didn't really tweet that, but after he made a joke at Earl this morning in the group chat, I had a bunch of
I was like, how did he get that off?
Hit up Jason Lloyd.
Hey, if you know, you know. That's some like.
No, that is exactly right.
That's some inside the group
that
chat
is
right
very
there.
inside the UCSS beltway.
and as you can tell, I'm clueless.
Well played, Mike.
I'm like, what does that mean?
Hey, Mike said he got my back, bro. Really got my back.
He does.
I told you.
He said in the chat this morning, I've got your back, bro.
Hey,
if you're looking for nudes, hit up Jason. I'm not sure anyone wants
That's
those.
crazy.
He's got it. Before we get into this stuff, we'll really break down the game. No more jokes. Earl, real quick, got a shout out you want to give from last Friday.
Yeah, shout out to the Harvard Performance Academy third graders from Miss Benton and Miss Moss class.
You spoke there Friday.
I got the opportunity to speak for Career Day. I've had my moments to where I've had a lot of fun, and my 3 going on 4 years doing this. This absolutely takes the cake, right? We just celebrated our 500th episode. We just got nominated for an Emmy. You know, we've had so much success.
Life is good.
And things like this, you all hear me talk about all the time. Representation matters.
Oh, my God.
I could not have felt it be a more impactful statement than in that moment. Like, as soon as I got in the door and I hit the corner, one of the kids see me. He said, "Oh my God, that's Earl the Pearl."
That's awesome.
And just to sit there and to talk about what we do every day from a production standpoint and what it's like to be out here on a set.
Did they have good questions?
They had a lot of questions about money. They wanted to know about Donovan Mitchell. They wanted to know if I ever met Deshaun Watson.
Wow.
So I showed them a picture of me and Deshaun Watson. They went crazy. Absolutely
Earl,
crazy.
I'm glad that you understand how impactful that is, because my question to you was, when you were in the second grade, and G. Bush, you can answer this too, did you guys have a person that looked like you that were in the lane you wanted to occupy?
When I was that young, no. They didn't look like me. They didn't come from where I come from.
Wow.
And in fact, I had people that looked like me telling me that there was no guys in this game that looked like me, so I probably wanted to do something else. And
guys that would try to deter you, don't do
Right.
this, you can't make it.
Right. And so to these kids to see me, you know, I had some J's on, dressed like I'm dressed now. They
Right.
can relate to that. I come from the same neighborhoods, and they was just had so many questions about FanDuel, Monopoly Go, about the Cavs and the Browns, and you know, a couple kids say like, I want to be like him when I grow up,
Wow.
or this is what I want to do. Listen,
Oh, my God.
when you have an impact on the youth, and when you can create some faith and hope and our youth, because they are the future, there is no feeling in the world that's better than that.
Was this the school you went to?
That was not the school I went to.
Okay.
That was another school, and I was
Because
supposed to go to my
You
own
will
school.
end up going to your school. Gee, I think you've done things at your school, have you not?
Yeah.
Or your elementary
Yeah,
schools?
like, so I've been back to my high school. I've done graduation, commencement.
Right.
I've, gone to Upward Bound. They got a program, Junior Achievement, where I've taught like an 8th grade science class,
Yeah.
like for a whole, I think it's for like 4 months or whatever the case
Wow.
may be. So yeah, man, I love it. It's one of the cool things. It was in my documentary when I went to a school, and so I'm definitely proud of Earl getting a chance to go back
That's awesome.
and making that
By
impact
the way,
in the streets.
you're one of his mentors. So it's all about passing the torch.
Yeah.
The torch, even though G's very much entrenched in the game, he gave you some of his flame to light your fire, and now you will use your torch to light. I'll promise you, there are multiple kids in that class that went home at night and told their families, I know what I want to do when I grow up. Mm-hmm. And that's because of you. And of all we do, that's the most important day that you can have. Because we touch a lot of people in this role every day.
Right.
But when you go into a situation like that and you touch the hearts and souls of 25 young people, that has lasting impact. And you talked about your college and your graduation. Of all the things I've been lucky enough to do, and luck, I stress luck, because there is such a huge measure of luck that is involved in all of our stories. And trust me, I have much luck in my story. Of all of the things I've been lucky to do and cover and days I've been able to experience, the two most memorable, at least of the most memorable, not family and birth of my children and wedding related, the most impactful days that I've spent in my 37 years were the day I gave my high school commencement address and the day I gave my Bowling Green State University college commencement address. I'll never forget those days, and you're blessed in life if you have the opportunity to go back to where you came from and to tell your story. So kudos to you. You've made it.
Thanks, brother.
That's a big day.
Thanks,
I couldn't be happier for you.
All right, guys, we're going to get into all the details, the comeback, the scoring, the defense, all of it from Game 7 after a quick word from FanDuel. It is winner take all time in the NBA and the NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and much more. So visit FanDuel.com/UCSS and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. It was a historic comeback for the Cavs, down 18 with just under 4 minutes to go in the second quarter. They come back to win by 12. It was the biggest comeback ever in a Game 7 in NBA history. I want to start with this, then we'll talk about some other facets. But we know what happened when they were down early. G left. Earl, Jay.
I left too. I went to clean my grill.
Your grill. So,
No, I came back at halftime. But
Earl, let's start with Earl on this one then. When they were down 18, did you think it was over? Did you still think they had a chance?
And be honest.
In your opinion, what sparked the comeback? What was the one play? What was the one player? What sparked the comeback?
So let me paint the picture for you all. Introductions come and go. The crowd is going crazy. And it's just like in a blink of the eye, the Cavs are getting their ass kicked. They separated me and Mike yesterday. Mike, I think, is two rows below me. I text Mike. And I said, this not good. He said, no, this is ugly. And in my mind, I'm planning what questions I'm about to ask Donovan Mitchell and JB Bickerstaff after this game, because I'm probably
what's
not
next for you guys?
I'm not about to see JB no more after this. I thought the Cavs was dead in the water. I thought it was over. The energy in the building was gone. The frustration was at an all-time high. Like, to be around a bunch of angry, pissed off Cavs fans in that particular moment, it was not pretty. Oh, yeah. I think they came down and missed like 2 or 3 straight shots. Evan Mobley had 2 straight turnovers. And the next thing you know, going up the court, the boos just started to ring out all over the arena. And in between like TV commercials and timeouts, Ahmad was doing his best.
But it wasn't working.
To get the crowd into it, and it just absolutely was not working.
Oh, man.
Like, people thought this was over. And they could not believe that it looked like the Cavs were about to get blew out on national TV at home in the Game 7. And so to see them flip the switch the way they did, the resiliency, I got to give them this credit. because for as much as we talk about them not being mentally tough, for as much as we talk about this team not really responding to the moment, they got hit in the mouth. And yeah, they got down, but they beat that 10 count.
Okay, so without like listing the 10 things that happened, because obviously that's multifaceted. When you flip the switch on an 18-point deficit, it's not just one thing. But try to sort of boil it down. How did they do it?
He said this in the post game, and I remember
Donovan?
Yeah, he being Donovan, and I remember it in real time. Donovan Mitchell came down at some point, hit a 3-point shot, kind of stood there, took his time walking back up the court. And even though they was losing, you could kind of see that they had survived that blow. And from that moment in the second quarter, they started trying to claw themselves back in. When they got that to like 10 points before they got to halftime, I felt a little bit better about where this game was going.
So you think that the turning point was that Mitchell 3?
I think so.
When you look back at it, as you go back and I watched, after the game was over, I had it recorded. I went back and watched it. What saved them was when they put Darius Garland on the bench and said, "Hey, Karis LeVert, you gonna do something?"
I felt the same way.
Karis LeVert came in and had 10 points, and he got to the lane. You know, his game is so unorthodox.
But God, is he athletic and
but,
fast.
But he came in and gave him that, and it kept it from being a 25-point game. Them 10 points kept it to within place where now we're within 10. And I don't know why it is. Mike could probably tell you basketball players is weird. Like, they strange. Like, they feel like 10 points. The 10 is the magic number.
It is, double digits.
If we get it to 10, I feel good about my life. And they got it to 10. And from that point on, they came out, and I think Donovan Mitchell in the second half got 2 quick layups. The game was down to 6. They went back and forth a little bit. And then I thought another key was the fact that the Cavs got into the bonus very early in the third quarter.
Yeah.
When they got to the bonus, you got guys that got able to get to the free throw line. And I think what happened is you started seeing the magic kind of melt a little bit. Like there were some times where, what's the name? Jalen Suggs was hitting threes, but there was a few times where there was a few forced shots. Quick shots, they get the rebound. So I thought that period between, I would say 8 minutes left to go in the second quarter, throughout halftime into the third quarter is where the Cavs kind of took hold. And then Donovan Mitchell after that said,
"This is my game. Get out of the way."
To your point, during that stretch, I think it was a stretch to where Darius Garland had 2 points and 3 fouls, and I think Max Strus had 3 fouls.
Yeah.
Right. And so not only was the shots not falling for the Cavs, but the refs was quick on the whistle. And, that can get into your head. You already losing. You can't hit your shots. And now the refs is calling everything that looked like ticky-tack fouls. What pissed me off is Max Strus wouldn't stop complaining. So it seemed like every time down court, okay, I'm going to call another foul. Another foul.
He made it worse.
So I got to give kudos to Karis for actually coming off the bench and playing like he had some damn sense yesterday.
I think both of you guys hit nails on heads. I will have to say, there was, from the time it was 18 until it got to halftime, I didn't watch. And I didn't go back and look at it. I went outside. I said, I have better ways to spend my day. I was frustrated. I wanted to break something. I cleaned the grill. I came back in at halftime. My son Corey's in from Rutgers for the weekend. I hadn't seen him since Christmas. I felt guilty. Here I am. I got a big moment to share with my son. I'm out here cleaning the grill, pissed off. So I said, no, it's not how it's going to go down. I'm going to go down and watch the second half with Corey no matter what happens. Corey's a diehard. That kid never left the TV and never gave up hope. I sat there and watched, and I thought 2 things. One, Karis LeVert, big, gave them big moments when at times you were looking around going, who the hell else is going to score?
Yeah.
And the other thing was, and this was, I think this was the biggest thing. They flipped the script on Orlando, and they started pushing Orlando around. They got physical. And Wagner, Mo, it just disappeared. And they didn't like it. Sometimes the best part of any movie is when the bully gets hit in the mouth at the end. Mm-hmm. And last night I thought if this series was a movie, you remember after Game 4 they were doing this to the Cavs?
Yep.
Remember?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm going to relish that Game 7 when it's finally over. Because at that point I knew it's going 7. And I just thought, I'm going to relish the fact when at the end of this series they beat Orlando and they can say, But I thought there was a moment, and I don't know exactly what the moment was, but I thought there was a moment where they all looked around and realized and said, are we going to let them continue to give us wedgies in front of national television audience, or are we going to fight back? And it was the scene in the movie, the second half, was when the bully finally said, no. Bam. Square in the mouth, and everybody's got a plan until they get hit in the mouth. And Orlando suddenly wasn't the team that they were the whole series.
They shots
weren't
wasn't
falling. Although it was driving me nuts that they kept getting a long rebound on the threes.
That
on the
was
missed
annoying.
threes. I'm like, my God, it kept magically falling into their hands. Mikey, what was your turning point?
So LeVert was a great call, G. And Earl, you were in the building with me yesterday, so you can attest to this. I swear to goodness, I'm not joking. I think the turning point in the game is when Sam Merrill hit that first three. And you could feel.
And he wasn't that kind of a moving three, too?
Yeah, and he had 2 threes in the second quarter.
That was
he
a
had
good
8 points
one.
in the second quarter.
Yeah.
You could feel, and I'm telling you, the crowd was dead. Boo birds every time they called timeout. And Merrill hits that first three, and you could feel them just get a little twinkle of little light, like, hey, this in here. And then LeVert came down and scored a bucket, G. And LeVert and Merrill, that second unit in the second quarter, started what turned into an 18-point deficit to a 10-point deficit. And the second Merrill three forced Orlando to call a timeout. And no, that was the first time in what was, I would say, 5 or 6, at the Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, crowd erupted. And after the game, Paolo Banchero said, yeah, the crowd played a factor. Cleveland's crowd was awesome.
Yeah, in the second half, they were
The
great.
second Merrill three was the first time that it got a chance to fully erupt. And that was what sparked their offensive run to end the second quarter. And then once halftime hit, the third and fourth quarters, their defense
So it's
obviously
interesting,
turned around.
like, it
but
was
it's
kind
the
of the
Merrill
role
and LeVert
guys.
minutes that allowed them to claw back into it and stop it from being a 25-point game like G mentioned and turn into a 10-point halftime deficit, which in basketball, that's like 3 possessions.
Look.
It feels like
No, you're right. And it stops first of all, when you hit a three, not only does it stop the bleeding, when you're on a drought, it gives you hope that you can make future threes. Role guys.
Yeah.
LeVert. And by the way, we had an all-time great performance. Only one player this blows my mind. In the history of games 6 and 7,
that's crazy,
scored more points, and that's Allen Iverson, and he did it by 1.
We're going to talk about Donovan in 1 sec. Let's talk role players, then we'll spend a ton of time on Donovan. But you're right. LeVert, Merrill, Isaac Okoro's defense in the third quarter
unreal.
Was a game changer. They got contributions up and down the roster. They didn't get enough from DG and Mobley offensively, but
Not
the
even
other
close.
guys who played contributed exactly what you needed to win. With the lights at their brightest, with the pressure at its highest, it mattered.
I thought another moment that it sort of solidified the win because the Cavs were already up, but it was teetering. I think they'd gotten it down to 7 or 8. DG missed a 3, a wide open look.
Yep.
The rebound comes out, it kicks around to Donovan Mitchell.
Isaac Okoro got the rebound.
Okoro got the rebound. He gave it to Mitchell. Mitchell instantly fed it over to DG
in the corner.
In the exact same spot. And he didn't hesitate, and he pulled the trigger. Imagine if that shot doesn't go in.
Hey, listen,
because I'm yelling as he's firing the second one. I'm like, no!
DG turned around and looked at the crowd.
I know it. That was the moment. I think it gave them an 11-point lead.
It did. It was the dagger.
And that was a wrap.
And you know what? That's an embrace that brothers know all too well.
That was real.
This is also an embrace when me and Earl get the Jordans and they come in both of our sides. We bid it on them. He got the J's. I got the J's. And my hand is in Earl's braids back in the back.
No, you know what? It's so funny that you said that because in that moment, I thought, I can't remember another time. Now, obviously, this is their biggest moment together.
That's me and
but
G.
that's what it looks like when two brothers love each other.
And he telling me, we need that. We need you.
Where you been, dog?
That's me and G after 14,000 views on the Ultimate Brown Show after Browns weekend. That was me and G then. But, the role
that was
players,
a real moment.
Listen, in the second quarter, you get Karis LeVert and you get Sam Merrill to step up and hit some big shots and some big moments. And he was due. Max Strus was due. He came out 13 points in the third quarter. JB Bickerstaff, due to players being in foul trouble, had to rely on the role players. And a game after Karis LeVert only played 7 minutes and scored 1 point, for him to respond the way that he did where his team absolutely needed him the most, like that spoke volumes because he's been in that situation before. I think he was like one of only 2 or 3 players that had ever been in a Game 7 before. And so for him to like use that playoff experience and step up and like come through for his team when they needed it, man, we wouldn't be sitting right here today talking about the Cavs moving on if it wasn't for Sam Merrill, if it wasn't for Max Strus.
The role guys got it done.
He has to listen. Max Strus. I remember go back to 16. The Cavs were so lethal back then because they could bring off the bench Kyle Korver. You had J.R. Smith that would shoot it like that. Channing Frye would shoot it like that. You need a guy that could come in and get lethally hot and hit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 threes in a row to push a lead or to get back into a game. He got to be smart how he uses them. Obviously, Okoro's a better defensive player, but if Okoro's not making shots or afraid to take them, he has to get Sam Merrill in there for 3 or 4 little quick minute spurts to see if we get some offense.
Couple historical things. It's the first time the Cavs have won a series without LeBron James on the roster in 31 years. I wrote this down just because for those that have been around a long time, like me, and I think you might remember this. I'm not sure if you would. How old are you again?
I'm 42.
Yeah, you would have been 11. You remember this.
So was it against the
last
Nets?
time? It was the Nets.
Drazen Petrovic.
In 93.
Shout out to him, RIP.
The last time this happened, you had guys like Mark Price, and I believe Brad Daugherty was on that club.
He was the leading scorer.
I mean, guys, that feels like, because of the LeBron years, 2 different eras, that seems like a lifetime ago.
Yeah.
Series
And
was
they
only
had
5
not-
games
Jay,
back
I wasn't
then.
born.
No, you weren't
That's
born?
crazy.
Is this is the first time they've ever won a Game 7 without LeBron James. Like, for an organization whose history revolves around LeBron James, this was a big moment. This was a really big moment.
It was. But you know what that talks about? Because I told Mike this. Man, what a fall from grace. Because as I was driving home, I'm not going to lie, I was excited as hell the Cavs won. I cannot remember the last time I was ever excited to see the Cavs win a round 1 playoff series. In fact,
no, because they were always expected.
I was always touch and go. I knew the Cavs would either sweep or win the series in 5. I never really wasted my time. I would really start getting into it around Eastern Conference Finals. LeBron is here. I knew what the assignment was. The Cavs was going to the NBA Finals. That's when we kind of like all chips in, let's see what's going on. But for me to have that internal excitement that I had, because, I was alive in 93. I was a kid. I didn't know what was going on. Like, to hear those numbers and to know my level of fandom, it's like, damn. Like, LeBron has really, really taken this franchise to heights that was never thought of before. And to see this franchise finally have some type of success without him,
it's big.
It's big. It's huge.
It's big.
He's going to continue to do it because this series puts us on national TV while the Lakers are at home. LeBron will probably...
That's another key part of it.
LeBron will opt
home.
out. You at the house. And I want you to see what this team could be if you decide to come on down here and play for that mid-level exception. Come on now. We already got the draft picks. I was corrected by McNuggets. We do have a first-round draft pick. Bronny James will fit right on in. And guess what? We don't got to give nobody up. We don't got to trade nobody. You're not watching your team right now, and I'm glad he's at home watching the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Wouldn't it be a surreal moment if Bronny was a Cavalier and LeBron did come home, and watching that first game with both of them in the same uniform? Bronny grew up watching his dad dominate in that building.
Clip this. Woo.
Like, that would be a surreal moment. I don't think it's going to happen.
I mean, you never know. You never know.
With LeBron James.
But you could dream.
You could dream.
When you talk about off-season acquisitions, you never know, man. You might have LeBron James Jr., LeBron James, and Brandon Ingram as the new faces of the Cavs.
I love where your mind's going, but we still got a season to play.
We're not done. We're not done.
We still got a season to play. A big reason for that was Donovan Mitchell. And we're going to talk about his heroics in a second. Monopoly Go is the app that if you guys aren't on already, I only have to ask, what are you waiting for? It is the best app and the most addictive, most fun app you can find on your phone. And in Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends for time tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. There's more you win together. There's more awesome prizes you can unlock. And there's so much to get, like unique stickers you can trade with friends to complete Big albums for big prizes, cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with, hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings or heist their vaults. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go. So get off the bench, download it now for free on Google Play or the App Store. Monopoly Go, game on. So we mentioned Donovan Mitchell. In Game 6, he had 50 points. In Game 7, he had 39. That gives him 89 points total combined in Game 6 and Game 7. And when you look at the history of the NBA, as far as ESPN could find, that was the second highest point total ever for a player between Game 6 and Game 7, and only trailing Allen Iverson,
so surprising to me,
who scored 90 in 2001. Jimmy Butler did it back in 2022. That tied Dominique Wilkins, who also did it in 1888 with 82 points. Donovan Mitchell, on one leg, scored 89 points in 2 potential closeout games. Gee, what do you make of his heroics over the final 96 minutes of basketball for the Cleveland Cavaliers, willing this team to a second-round appearance?
Well, now, listen, it's a first-round appearance. So, look, he's a superstar for a couple reasons. I want to put the first reason is that he was consistent in his wording. He said this was not a big deal. He said, hey, guys, at the end of the game, you know, I know this was a great series, 7 games. We excited, but this is not. We didn't sign up to win and get first round series. That's not what
he actually said. It means nothing.
Nothing.
He did.
So listen. That's the first thing that you need your superstar to understand, because this first round is going to be light work compared to what you got to do this next round. I like the shift in focus. Second of all, I like what he said after the game. They asked him. He said, "What really got into you?" He said, "I didn't want to go home." That's another thing. Like a lot of there's that point. That's why you run them laps. That's why you do all the off-season stuff. You lift those weights. You ain't around your family. You're eating grass and high-protein diets that don't taste good, right? You ain't in the clubs drinking. You do that because you don't want to go home. And so when you put that work in, something clicks on certain people. I ain't do all this for nothing. I don't care what need to happen. If I got to play on 0 legs and get to the rack, I'm going to do that. So Donovan Mitchell, what he came through and was able to do is not only was he the best player in the series or the best, the best closer in the series. I like the fact that when you see him in the timeouts, he said, I know JB don't know what he's going on. I know JB's a civilian. I know JB might be, he's over there in the trench over there cowering with the covers over his head. You know what? I'm gonna coach the squad. You need to be over here. You need to be over here. This will when they call timeouts, half court, he getting people together. He telling Darius Garland, hey man, come on, bro, you can't be doing that. You throwing the ball away every single play, and you ain't trying to shoot. Hey man, Evan Mobley, why your ankle so small? You look real skinny right now. You hungry? Get Evan a sandwich. Hey, Sam Merrill, come on in here, man. Sam Merrill Lynch, come on, we got you. Get my shooter some shots, man. I got my white boy shooter that need to get some shots. He did all of that, and he wouldn't let them lose. And that is what you get paid the big money for. I need that. I saw it this time, and that's what I'm going to see this fall with Deshaun Watson. I need games where you won't let us lose. And he showed you that's why he's a superstar.
Listen, man, big-time players step up in big-time moments and make big-time plays, right? That's what leadership is. I talk all the time about Donovan Mitchell having that alpha dog mentality. And that killer instinct. When you get to the NBA, everybody is talented. You know, all these dudes can ball. But those dudes who got that killer in them, that got that alpha, refuse to lose mentality, those are the players that separate themselves for the rest. See, Donovan Mitchell ain't no 6'5", 6'6" plus, guy that's a stretch big. He might not be the best player in the NBA, but when you are able to get your hands on a guy who refuses to lose, who puts in the work, who has the energy and the attitude necessary, needed to like be a leader and to take your team over the hump, you do whatever you can to keep those dudes in the fold for as long as you can. He answered the call, right? Especially for how bad things looked in those 2 games against Orlando. A lot of people was out here saying that he's packing it in, that he's quick, that he's already got 1 foot out the door. And G alluded to it. No, he let it be known. Like, 1, this first round win ain't shit. And 2, like, I'm not trying to go home, and the way that he was doing the little things, in the timeouts, he literally went over to Darius Garland and he said this. He was like, I don't give a shit about what's happening. Shoot the ball. Like, I understand, just shoot the ball. I got you. Bro, I got you. And for him to be, the biggest supporter, the biggest cheerleader or advocate for Darius Garland when it comes to his confidence. That's another piece of this puzzle when you talk about Donovan Mitchell, like being that leader. Like, this dude has continued to prove, man, time in and time out, that he is just the, like, unquestioned, undeniable overall leader of this team. Like, when it comes to motivating, coaching, his performance on the court, just everything. Like, that dude is Mr. Cavalier.
Yeah, that's what a leader looks like. Orlando had some moments where they needed buckets badly. I can't remember. I think the stretch was getting to like 12 or 14. Mm-hmm. And there was a moment where Banchero basically had an offensive possession where he just said to everybody, y'all better get the hell out of my way. I'm going to the hole and I'm dunking this.
I was like, where do you get that from?
And so in those moments, Mitchell had a few too. In those moments, you realize just how special those people are. We saw LeBron James do it famously in a playoff game where he scored like the last 29 points against the Pistons between fourth quarter and overtime. We saw it with Donovan Mitchell in Game 6 at Orlando, where he was the only offensive option in the fourth quarter. Yeah. We saw it for flashes of Banchero, and we saw it in big moments with Mitchell. What separates Mitchell, I think, from a lot of these guys is most of them will say, I can do this by myself. Mitchell is smart enough to know I'm going to need y'all's help. And when that sequence of the Darius Garland missed three, and then Mitchell putting the ball back in his hands within 5 seconds from the same spot, him pulling the trigger and making it, that embrace was as warm as it was because that was Mitchell saying to Garland, I damn told you, shoot. I don't care if you're missing, shoot.
Shoot the ball.
There it is.
That's what it looks like.
That's it.
And so what you're seeing is the superstar, and we didn't always see this with LeBron James, by the way. As he matured, and same with Michael Jordan, he learned no man can do this alone. Not in this league. Yeah. This is a grown man league. At some point, you're going to need other grown men to help you take the mountain. LeBron learned in his career. MJ learned in his career. I think Donovan is learning in real time. I'm going to need Darius Garland to be Darius Garland. I can't do this by myself. Yeah. We've seen what that looks like. I also think that the voice that is echoing inside of Donovan Mitchell's head is the interview post-Utah Jazz series when Shaq told another grown man, essentially to his face.
It was. That was
they
cold.
were hooked up on a remote interview. But he said, I love you.
You're one of my favorite players. One of my favorite players.
I don't think you can do it.
I don't think
and Mitchell was like, okay. He's like, what do you have to say to that? He's like, okay.
I just got to show you.
And that tape resurfaced after Game 6, after Game 5, I believe.
Yeah.
Or 4,
that
maybe.
13-point performance.
Started making the rounds again, yeah. And I think that drives him. He knows that Shaq is one of the all-time greats. Mm-hmm. And he also knows that what Shaq said, he hasn't disproven. He's in the process of trying to disprove that. And what I love more than anything in sports, yesterday, Guardians game, they're down 1-0. It looks like they're going to lose a series for the third straight time to a team that they should have handled. They should have handled Houston. Atlanta, I'll give them. But what happened? The Alphas stood up. Hosey hit a 2-run ding. Naylor hit a 2-run ding. That's what happens in these close and tights. And for me, Donovan Mitchell now is to the point in his career where he realizes I have to empower these other guys. Yeah. I can't do this by myself. And I loved what he said after the game. He looked square in the camera and he said, look, I hate to say it because I know Cleveland, this is big for Cleveland, but this doesn't mean anything.
See, he's right.
We've got another series now. And also wanted to read a statement that I thought this showed maturity too. Because it's one thing to say that, but it does mean something. Mm-hmm. You could tell by their emotions it meant something.
Yeah.
It meant that they're not going home again after the first round.
We talk all the time. Body language is the biggest percentage of communication that people don't understand.
Here's what I always say. I can't hear your words because their actions are drowning them out. Yeah. It's one thing for Donovan Mitchell to say the right thing. He said the right thing. It damn well means a lot. You could tell on those players' faces and in that hug because what it means is you're not going home for the second straight year after the first round. But I wanted to read this statement, and I thought it was fitting, too, that Darius Garland said this to our own Jason Lloyd. Here's what he said after the game. Our guys want to make our own legacy, Garrett said to the Athletics' Jason Lloyd. This was in a write-up on CBS Sports. It's a new look, a new feel. This is the key part. It's a rebirth in Cleveland. It would mean a lot to all of us. So, and that was talking about getting the monkey off their back after it wasn't even a flameout. They just lost the play-in game in 2022. And in that moment, you can tell that they know we're playing in LeBron's shadow. We haven't done a thing until we start to erase the memories of LeBron James. They'll never fully be gone, but if you can't win, this franchise is always going to go down as LeBron James franchise. When he was there, they won. When he wasn't, they didn't. And now they can start to slowly bury that legacy a little bit and build the rebirth. They can do it on their own. And this did mean a lot, and this was big. And they celebrated in the locker room like it was, but then they immediately said, okay, guys, new season.
They asked Donovan Mitchell about that in his post-game press conference, and he said it's always cool to be on that side of history, but when the Cavs traded for me, they didn't trade for me for us to kind of win a first-round series and that be the end. Though he said, when they put this team together the way it's constructed, that was not the goal.
That's called legacy awareness.
Yeah, and so he definitely understands the temperature that's going on in the room. And, it's funny that we talk about an all-time great like Shaq, challenging him that way and him answering
on public TV.
On public TV.
National.
For those who know, Donovan Mitchell wears 45 because of Michael Jordan. And so he clearly loves the energy of great players, and he clearly knows how to respond to things like that. The Cavs are lucky to have him, right? At the end of the day, I'm not sure if Donovan Mitchell can be the best player on the championship team because of size and this, that, and the third, but he damn sure got championship heart. You know what I mean?
There's no question.
And that's what matters.
Yeah, there's no question.
And Donovan, I'm going to tell you this. Nice victory, but let's not get it twisted. You was down 20, and there was a series and a game in the series where you had 13. And Darius Garland, you did hit that shot, but you had a lot of crazy turnovers and 8-second counts and all that other stuff. Evan Mobley, I like your blocks, but you're going to have to finish down low. And the reason I'm telling you this is because the beast that you playing coming up, they don't care nothing about none of that Orlando stuff. Y'all should have beat Orlando. The game, it was actually too close, to be truthful. You can't come out in games and get blown out on the road and then think you're going to come back home and get some home cooking and even it up. This team will beat you on the home, on the road, in the high school gym, in the college gym, or on the playground. Y'all going to have to step your game up because you will get swept in this series if you don't be ready to play game one in the Garden. And that's the type of energy, ratchet it up a little bit because the Orlando Magic was nice puppies with Similac and around their mouth and with the bibs and Pampers on. This is this grown-ass dude bully from Boston, and you know what they're going to be doing in the Garden. Come on now.
That's a great transition to where we're going next, because we're going to talk about what this team can rely on from some of these other key players, not role players. We're talking about Mobley and Garland. How much do you trust them after moments that they had in the first-round series against, like you said, the team that most people think is going to win it all, and that's the Boston Celtics. All right, Mike.
Yeah, we'll ask that question specifically in 1 sec. If you missed the immediate reaction post-game show from last night, make sure you go check it out on our YouTube page. It's under the Ultimate Cavaliers tab. Also, G. Bush is doing an Ultimate Brown show later tonight at 5 o'clock, so make sure you guys tune in for that. G, you brought us right to it. DG and Mobley in particular. Orlando's one thing, Boston's another. Through 3 quarters of Game 7, Mobley and Garland had combined for 6 points. They finished with 23. They had 17 in the fourth. As a tandem, they played their best when it mattered most, but for 3 quarters, the offensive performances from those two were far from ideal. I'll start with you, then Jay and Earl, you chime in. Heading into the series against Boston, can the Cavs rely on Mobley and Garland offensively, or is it too much of a risk based off what you saw against Orlando?
Man, listen, I don't like to make war analogies because obviously that's real life, but man, when you shoulder to shoulder with somebody you don't know, you gonna have to depend on them because that's all you got at the time, Jay.
Like you're
in the foxhole with them. You're not getting no new. Ain't nobody coming to save y'all. Y'all not getting no new recruits. You're not drafting nobody, so you got to depend on them. And what Donovan Mitchell has to have is some tough love for Darius Garland. Listen, Darius, You have to play like you're not a spectator. That right there is going to get you swept. 12 points, 4 assists. That right there is going to get you swept.
How many turnovers did he have?
2.
It was
like he had a
fewer
lot
than
more
it
than that.
felt. Fewer than it felt.
It's
Yeah.
because, and another thing is, we talk about it is, we talk about can we count on those two players? Can you count on your coach? When it gets stagnant and when it gets to be dribble, one guy on 4 guys, one guy on 5, with no plays to get guys shots in their comfortable spots, you're going to get blown out because Boston's going to make those plays. Jason, they got multiple guys on the court that you're going to have to guard on defense, and you're going to also have to give them buckets on the offensive side because you can't let them play free and easy on both ways, right? Especially because both of them are great two-way players.
Porzingis is out, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Porzingis is out, so that means Evan Mobley, you're supposed to be eating. You're supposed to be. Don't tell me about Al Horford. Listen, you are 3 years in. Don't tell me about Al Horford. We need those type numbers right there, but I need you to be around 17
He
again.
was a beast in the paint.
Yeah, he was.
And honestly, they don't win that game without every single one of those rebounds and every single one of those blocks.
We need that.
He came to ball, even if he couldn't do it offensively. It's kind of really showing what he is, right? He's a defensive force.
And here's the thing. I'm going to give you a reprieve. If you going to give me 16 and 5 blocks and you still going to give me double figures or whatever the case may be, I'll take that. But I need that every night.
Yeah,
every night
those are
to
huge.
win. That because I can't have them going to the rim. And Darius Garland, we need 20 plus. Not 15, not 17, not 12. We need 20 plus, along with the Donovan Mitchell that's focused. Donovan, you came through, but you need to be Jalen Brunson-like. And usually I say Jalen Brunson because he's the guy in New York, right? You see what I'm doing? I'm motivating you, bro. I think you better. But you need to be around 30 every night. That's what you need to be doing.
Here's how I see it. We just got finished talking about Donovan being the killer, having that killer instinct. I think, this is just my opinion, I think in this series, Jason Tatum is clearly the best player, but Donovan got a killer in him. Jason Tatum, I'm still trying to figure out if he does or not, right? So when I look at that matchup, because that's going to be the storyline, I can roll with Spider in that. The problem is when it comes to Darius Garland and Derek White, I don't know about DG. When it comes to Evan Mobley and Jaylen Brown, I don't know about Evan Mobley. For as great as he was on the defensive side of the ball, I need more offensively from Evan Mobley.
Yeah, you do at some
point.
point.
You had 6 turnovers, man.
Yep.
6 turnovers, and 4 of the turnovers was absolutely careless turnovers, right?
Yeah, it was like they're almost like brain lapses.
Those are the things that can't happen. And yeah, the 16 rebounds is cool, but he also had a game. I think it was game 3 to where he had 2 rebounds.
Yeah.
So if you're not gonna give me anything on the offensive side of the ball, I at least need you to be consistent with rebounding the ball, making sure that you blocking shots and that you keeping your opponent from going off from 20-plus points as well. Like, if you can't get 20, make sure your man, since you're an elite defender, make sure your man don't get 20. If you're not going to give us anything on the offensive side of the ball, he shot the ball 5 times in Game 6. He shoot the ball another 8 times in Game 7. You are a dude. I'm past the whole unicorn talk. I don't even want to talk.
See, I'm with you.
Just put the shots up.
Yeah.
Put the shots up. Like, you're not strong enough in the paint. It seems like every time you try to put the ball on the floor to make a spin move, like you're getting ripped. I'm tired of seeing you with these careless turnovers. As far as DG go, believe it or not, I trust DG right now way more than what I trust Evan Mobley.
No kidding.
DG came out in Game 6 and was the only real help that Donovan Mitchell had. Now, yeah, did he have that careless 8-second violation? Listen, you're an all-star point guard. That should never happen. That better not never happen again. But in that game, what'd he give? 23 points?
Yeah.
The rest of the team combined for 25? He showed up on the road in a game, coming off a game at home to where he balled out, got his confidence back. He showed up in Game 6, and he contributed. On the road in a hostile environment, if y'all want to, nag on those turnovers, cool. But you know what? At least he gave some type of help. And it's clear that he's the one that Donovan Mitchell has identified. I need him the most. And that's why you see Donovan spending a lot of time trying to motivate DG, because he knows this dude is capable of getting 50 himself. And I need to get this dude confidence to a point to where, he can be Robin. I know what I'm going to get from Jared Allen. The wild card is Evan Mobley. I cannot trust Evan Mobley to go get a bucket on a consistent basis. Yeah, and that's the problem.
It's interesting that you ended your answer that way, because here's the way I start mine. I trust both of them in moments. Not the biggest moments, although, if you look at Mobley's block might be one of the single biggest moments in the series. Because if they lose Game 5, the series is over. Yeah. It's a wrap. Yeah. And so his block at the rim late in the game might be the difference in this series. So I do trust them in the micro. But the problem with this Cavs team is they won 17 of 18 and followed that up by going 13 and 18. How in the world does that happen? I know there were injuries along the way, but think about that. I don't know that you've ever found a time, and obviously in football you can't do that, but just give me baseball and the NBA. Mm-hmm. I have never, in my 50-plus years of being a sports fan and 37 years of covering these sports on a daily basis, I can't remember a time that in the same season a team won 17 of 18 and immediately followed that up with a record of 13 and 18.
No, I can't.
I can't even fathom how that happens. And to me, when I watched in the playoffs, I saw the same thing. I saw a team that I'm like, hell, they play like that, they can beat anybody.
Yeah.
And then I also saw moments where I said, damn, if they play like that, they can lose to anybody.
And that's what I mean.
What I'm saying is we need consistency. For the most part, Mitchell gives us that. Yeah, he had some hiccups. But he's so great when he's at the top of his game that you can forget about the bottom of his game. But DG and Mobley, I don't know that they're in that same conversation, that they're so good when they're great, it doesn't matter when they're not.
No, I don't think so. They are, and I think there's a lot when we talk about mental toughness. Mental toughness is a part of being consistent. Some of the things that irk me in those games is like when you see the others do things like grab the rebound, end your possession. If you got great defense for 23 and a half seconds, you can't go play offense. Our coach used to tell us, you got to close out the possession with a rebound. That's the most important thing. Rotation. Guys were over-rotating. There's times where they would rotate and you would leave Banchero. And I'm like, why are you helping off of Banchero when he's obviously the guy? You can't do that. I know they were challenging the Magic to shoot threes, but when Jalen Suggs is knocking them down and he's an NBA player and he's hot, you got to rotate over and make sure that happens. So for me, Darius Garland to win this series, right? You start to look at the pattern and the way to win. They're gonna have to win one of them games in Boston, because here's the reason. People say,
that's a fact.
If you don't win one there,
you can't win the series.
Boston has the capabilities of not only blowing you out at home, but they can blow you out in your building. I don't think the Magic, as you can see in the Game 7, they never had an opportunity, and they never came to the Q or the gun or what's the name arena, and they never really put it to the Cavs. They never really came in and beat them on their court. The Celtics can do that. And to beat them on the road, Darius Garland has to play like an all-star, and he has not played like an all-star.
I think one of the two has to play like an all-star for the entire series.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And, of course, you've got to get MVP caliber play out of Donovan Mitchell for them to win.
Yes.
They will not win the series if they don't get all-star play for the entire series out of either or Garland or Mobley.
If I had to look at it one way, okay, I think Boston can get got at home. Mike, you can check this. You would know better than me, but I think they're like teetering around like a 500 ball club at home in the playoffs. So for as good as they are,
Boston, they seem better than that
this year.
I think over the last 2 or 3 years.
Boston won 37-4 at home this year.
No, I'm talking about
the playoffs. He said
the playoffs. Like Boston in the playoffs over the last couple of years, it's not like they've done the best job protecting home court.
No, they lost to Miami at home last year.
And then
they lost to Miami.
Yeah, they
this
lost
year.
to Miami at home in Game 7 last year.
Yeah, and so like if Porzingis is not playing, one of the weaknesses is if you can get to the rack on Boston, then they subject to being got. So I'm not gonna count the Cavs out. If you go out here, Donovan Mitchell plays the way that he's been playing, and you can get some help from a key guy. Hopefully that key guy is Darius Garland, and then your contributors can give you a little bit. You could possibly steal a game in the Garden. I don't think that's far-fetched. I think that Boston is clearly the better team, but I do think the Cavs match up very well with them.
Well, I like with Porzingis out, I think you have a puncher's chance.
Yeah, you got a chance.
Earl's point, by the way, they're 11-12 in 2022 and 2023 at home in the playoffs.
11-12?
There you go.
Yeah. Yep.
So they can get got.
Wow.
The Cavs
on the road, they were 8-4 in 2022, and in 2023 they were 6-3. So they've been better on the road than they have been at home.
Well, they're
the last two
667 on the road in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Okay, the reason that's important and scary is because they've made up for their deficiencies at home. They're under 500 at home. They're 667 on the road. So, and I think Miami fell victim to this. Did Miami beat Boston in Game 2?
Yes.
Yeah, they made 20. They made a franchise record.
I know, 25 threes.
25 threes. Yeah.
But then they lost the next
here's
two
what's
games.
funny about it. They got on that plane and they flew back to Miami saying, 2 years in a row, we got them where we want them.
Yeah.
And they didn't win another game. So you can't exhale. Even if you do steal one in the first two, you can't exhale coming to Cleveland.
You can't exhale, but I'll tell you this. The Cavs are coming off of an emotional, crazy-ass game.
They're also going to be exhausted.
They might be, but Boston has said a few times. Max Strus, this is the series that Max Strus kind of like got his name against the Boston Celtics last year. I just think if there any chance to get them.
That's a great point.
I think game one is your best chance to get one in the
Really?
game. I think it's game one.
Max Strus better figure out what he's doing. He better get his mind together.
Gee, do you feel comfortable? I hadn't even thought of that, but you're right. Max Strus became Max Strus last year against Boston.
Well, he might want to go back and do that Facebook time machine thing. This was you 5 years ago. You're like, dang, my face was small back then. What was I
eating?
eating?
That time hop app.
That time hop app. You better get in there. Listen, because whatever he is today, he's doing that recklessly. Listen, I'm going to tell you what. Look.
But he was due, though, G. He came on the third quarter, 13 points. I think he shot, 5 or 8 in the third quarter by himself.
Yeah.
Again, when you playing, listen, that series, I'll give you credit for winning the Game 7, but this a different beast, and you shouldn't have went Game 7. That was not a 7-game series. So now I need to see you can't turn the ball over, Strus. You can't you can't go one or something. You got to be able to hit your shots. You can't have dumb fouls. Listen, Darius Garland, you can't dribble in the circles and throw the ball out of bounds or jumping past the ball. None of that. That is not going.
Weird, though, G, because I thought of this last night too. It shouldn't have been a 7-game series, but on paper, statistically, no series should be more hard fought and closer than the 4 and 5.
Right?
They were separated by 1 game in the entire regular season. Mm-hmm. So, your 1-8 matchup, you got 20-25 win differential between 1 and 8.
Right.
2 and 7, it might be 12, 15.
3 and 6.
3 and 6, it might be 8.
That 4 and 5. And another point
4
to
and 5 was 1 game.
Another point to that 4 and 5 and why it's so pivotal that the Cavs was the 4 seed. The cliche in the NBA is
a series doesn't start until the road team wins.
It didn't take that.
This series never happened.
Take that. All you needed was those 4 home games, and you was able to handle your business.
To your point, if you subscribe to the adage that a series doesn't start till the road team wins, that series never happened.
Yeah,
all 7 games, home team held serve.
Regular season mattered a little bit.
Boy, does it. That 1 game that they were able to win more than Orlando in the regular season.
It mattered.
Y'all playing a dangerous game. Thugs don't die until they get shot. Well, you got a gun shootout every single day. Well, you got a chance. They got blown out and didn't show up in 2 of those games. You cannot. If you're JB, you were rewinding that tape saying, "Listen, guys, we got away with it that time."
Yeah.
But if we
don't let Boston do that.
Don't don't feel like this is the way you can get that done. This is a new series, but every single game, we're not going to sit there, hang our hat on.
Spider said that though. He said that. He said no disrespect to the Orlando Magic. It was a hell of a matchup. They was tougher than what we thought. But you cannot play the way that we played in this series against Orlando and expect for you to have a puncher's chance against Boston.
We're going to talk about the Celtics after this, right?
No, let me just ask you, we'll go right into it. You guys aren't on the panel tomorrow, and we'll dive deeper into the Celtics series. We have John Corrales from Locked On Celtics coming on, and Jason will be back in. We'll do more of the Celtics deep dive, but real quick before we move on to Browns and Guardians. All the pressure was on the Cavs against Orlando. Mm-hmm. Now, the Cavs are going to play with no pressure. They are the underdogs. They're playing with house money. It's a team they've matched up relatively well with over the last 2 seasons. They beat them twice in overtime last year. They split the season series 2-1. They lost 2. They won 1 game. So it wasn't a split, but that's how the season series went this year.
Their win was by a point.
And it was the Dean Wade crazy fourth quarter game.
Great. They were down huge.
Down 20 in the fourth, and then Dean Wade went on a 22-point explosion.
We ain't seen him
So
since.
how do you guys feel about this series big picture? Do the Cavs have a fighting chance? Should they be – they're minus 1,600 underdogs on FanDuel to win the series. Ooh. Is that way off? But real quick for the next 10 minutes before we move on, what's your overall feelings on the Cavs taking on the top-seeded Celtics in the second round of the Eastern Conference Finals?
I think the Celtics end up winning this series in 6. But I do think that this series it has the opportunity to be very tough and competitive, and the Cavs – possibly can shock the world if they just handle their own business.
Hold on, Flex. Drop a bomb on that. You said what? Drop a bomb on that. You said go ahead and say that again. What you got?
I said I think the Celtics can win. Is going to win this series in 6. Let's be realistic here. Okay. But I think that the Cavs can. You thought my hometown bias is going to creep in. You thought my
I said, hold on. Is this really Earl over here?
I think that the Cavaliers have an opportunity to make some noise and possibly shock them. For as good as Boston is, I think Boston can get got. I think if they're not hitting their 3-point shots and if they're not rebounding the basketball, then they're not this great Boston Celtics team that everybody think that they are. For as good as Jason Tatum is, I don't think Jason Tatum has a killer instinct. I'm just giving you my opinion right now.
You're not alone on that.
And with Porzingis being hurt, I think that if you can get, possibly get Jared Allen back, I think that the way that you attack them is get to the paint. What we've seen in this past series is when the 3-point shot wasn't falling for Donovan Mitchell, what did he do? He attacked the basket time in and time out. I think that on the defensive side of the ball, since Evan Mobley is this elite defender, I think your assignment for this entire series needs to be Jason Tatum. You got to try to do whatever you can to neutralize him. I think when it comes to the coaching matchup, I don't think either team got that all good of a coach, if I'm being real with you. So I think they're going to cancel each other out. I think it's going to come down to the other guys. I know that Tatum is going to ball. I know that Spider is going to ball. My thing is, can Darius Garland and Evan Mobley, outball Jaylen Brown and Derek White? And that's what I'm not sure about.
That was well-rounded by you, Earl. I'm quite surprised that was really level-headed and everything, man, But I'm going to take I'm going to be honest with you. I got my Cavs gear on, and I've been drinking Kool-Aid. And hell no, I ain't going the route you thought I was going. You thought I was going to jump off the building with no parachute on? I got this series 4-2, Boston Celtics. Stop playing around. I'm not a Boston Celtics fan, but I will give you a recipe on how the Cavs can create an upset. First and foremost, Max Strus, if you want to decide to be, if you want to, get back in your old bag and start hitting threes, now's the time to do it. The recipe for beating the Boston Celtics has already been laid out for you. The Miami Heat showed you how you got to do it. You got to hit threes, more threes, and more threes. And then if they foul you getting under the basket, you got to hit your free throws, right? You got to make sure that you can get your guys off, like Sam Merrill, George Niang. If you want to hit a couple threes, come on back in.
Wait, is he still on the milk? He's still on the milk carton.
He's still on the milk carton. But what you will need is you're going to need 3-point shooting. I would say play Morris. This might not be around for Morris, right? Because here's one or two things about this. You got to have some stretch ability. You got to be able to hit a lot of threes. And if Morris is not hitting those, we like your defense, but we already got another guy in Isaac Okoro who ain't hitting no threes, so we can't have a bunch of these dudes. Darius Garland has to be over 20 points. And Spider Mitchell, in big moments, has to go shot for shot with Jason Tatum. Also, if the Boston Celtics don't shoot the ball well from the three-point arc, you can get them in a position where now the game don't get out of hand. Drew Holiday is a great defender on ball. Darius Garland, you're going to have to knock down your shots. But the key to the recipe is if you can win game one. Game one is a game that you can steal. Boston ain't played in weeks. You came off a hard-fought battle. They're not going to be as physical as Orlando, and you're going to have more space than you're used to. Right? So now that carries over, and now we got Evan Mobley. He has to do his thing against Al Horford down low. Derek White, you can't let him have 30. And if you can win, if you win game one, and you can you get game one, and you can get your 2 at home, which is a tough task, Jay. Now we got a series. But I got the Celtics on paper 4-2.
Mike, I got a question.
Shoot.
He said Evan Mobley draws Al Horford. I said Evan Mobley should draw Jason Tatum.
I mean, who are you going to put on Horford then? A 6'3"?
Yeah,
guy?
that's the dilemma.
It is a dilemma, I guess, in my mind.
Can we figure out what Jared Allen? How does Jared Allen go from being moment to moment?
Hold on.
Fill me in.
The Cavs have done Jared Allen a huge disservice.
Huge disservice. When he was not on the floor to start Game 7, I immediately went to what the Browns and kind of to some extent Deshaun Watson did before the Ravens game. Oh, he's going to play. He's going to play. I'm playing. Yeah, I'm going to play.
Well, not even that. I think it goes back to the initial
But when they went back to Game 5, I'm going back to Game 5.
Yeah.
When they said that he's a game-time decision, we all thought, okay, well, even if he doesn't play Game 5, see you in Game 6, big fella. Well, he didn't play Games 5 and Game 6, but he was moment to moment before Game 5. He is certainly going to be ready for Game 7. Nope. And I immediately flashed back to the feelings I had when Deshaun Watson was a no-go against the Ravens. Do not lean on the side of optimism to a fan base when it comes to an injury. And I will say, the Celtics are flirting with the same thing right now.
With Porzingis.
Yeah.
Because Porzingis all of a sudden is like, no, I haven't ruled myself out for this series.
No, they have.
No, he's not.
No, they said he's going to miss several games. That's all they said.
Yeah, no, and initially
he is saying something different.
He is.
Yeah.
Initially, we thought, oh God, it could be Achilles, and then it was an ankle, and now, and I had someone who is very close to the Boston Celtics tell me yesterday that don't be surprised if you see Porzingis in this series.
He did practice for the first time on Saturday.
Well, so that's why I bring this up, Mike.
I thought he was ruled out for the series. I'll be honest. I didn't realize
initially, I think what they thought. Well, and look,
I was in New Hampshire all weekend at a wedding. I cannot be blamed for missing.
No, that's true. I don't blame you for that. But what I'm saying is, I think that Boston initially did the right thing with him and said, yeah, it's unlikely he'll play in the second round. But now all of a sudden, they're saying he might play. If he practiced, he's going to play in this series. At some point, he might not be Game 1, but if he was good enough to get on the floor and practice. Now, obviously, how did he feel after that practice? That's the most important thing. But I wouldn't rule him out completely for the series. Don't make that mistake, Cavs. But the reason I bring this up with what's going on with Jared Allen, and I couldn't agree with Mike more, the Cavs needed to always lean on the side of pessimism. Mm-hmm. Then if Willis Reed happens, you guys are too young to understand that, Willis Reed come running through the tunnel in Game 7.
It was more of a walk with
yeah,
the cloudy,
more of a limp.
With the white joints on.
But I can tell you, because I have had conversations with a member of the Knicks that played on that team, and he had a long career and a successful career.
I was on that team.
He said,
Black don't crack.
Hey, nobody caught that.
You know,
I was on that team.
You kind of were. I'm told that when Willis Reed walked through that tunnel, this particular player said, I've never, ever, in all of my years of athletics, have I experienced or felt the energy of a building like I did on that day. And so you want your fan base to be like, oh, hell, he's not going to play. And with Jared Allen, I was like, okay, he's not going to play Game 5. See you in Game 6. And then we discussed this upstairs on Channel 3 at length going into Game 6. I said, leave him off the floor in Game 6. I've seen enough in games 3 and 4 in Orlando to know that this team isn't going to win game 6.
Right.
They're not. It's coming back to game 7. I don't want to have a recurrence of the injury. The Wagner boys knew that they hit him in the ribs a couple times and got him out. You don't think that they were going to put a big target on his ribs for game 6? So I thought, okay, smart move. Let's see him run through that tunnel in game 7. That building's going to erupt. Oh, he's not playing. What? So they built up our expectations, and then it didn't happen. And you're right. Now everybody was, the text chain at 1:15 yesterday was, Jarrett Allen is and I won't even finish it.
Yeah.
Which is so wrong.
It's not fair to the man.
And the
fair at all.
Cavs started the whole thing. They've done him a.
They mishandled it.
Yeah.
You can't do that, especially in a playoff series. So all of that being said, long way of getting to my prediction. I just think it's going to be Celtics in 5. I can't imagine the Cavs beat them twice. Now, listen, again, I always tell people, don't get pissed at me for what I think.
Right.
Because what I want is completely different. I want the Cavs to win, of course.
We all want to.
I mean, rubber stamp it in 4 games. But
yeah.
I'm trying to be as objective as I can. Having watched the Celtics, even if Porzingis isn't there in game 1, if they should lose games 1 or 2 without Porzingis because of his absence, he will be on the floor in game 3 in Cleveland.
And see, I'm trying to be a visionary with this thing, and I know Mike is the one, he's the savant, he's the guru. And see, he says, okay, well, who are you going to put on Al Horford?
And that would be my question.
My thing is, man, let Marcus Morris and Tristan Thompson waste their fouls on him.
Bill?
Put my best defender on their best
What do you think
player.
of that, Mike? They gave some big moments in this past series.
Mike, am I
It just
tripping and
depends on
thinking
who
that?
they want to start. I mean, they started Okoro in game 6 and 7.
I think you
and
should continue to start a court.
Well, even
you go
I do
small
too.
like that-
But you're spelling Okoro, and it's smart. You beat up the other team with guys who you can. I look at those guys. I look at Thompson and really Morris. 12 fouls.
Yeah.
You guys beat the hell out of the
I just
Celtics.
can't see myself.
You've got 12 fouls to do it.
I can't see myself wasting Evan Mobley on him, and I know like Jason Tatum is capable of 30.
Isn't it, Mike? Isn't it this? Well, we're going to let the superstar get his, but we're not going to let the supporting cast beat us.
That's what I said against Orlando. The supporting cast is too good against Boston. So
I know. That's the poison.
What I think they may do, and this totally depends on the starting lineup. If they go 2 bigs, whether it's Morris, Thompson, or Allen comes back, Mobley will be on Tatum.
Okay.
I
What
think
I think
so
they
too.
may do if they start Isaac at the 4, or the de facto 4, whatever, Mobley's your 5, they may put Mobley, and it's an issue because Horford could shoot. He's not a great shooter. You probably have to live with those shots. But they may put Isaac on Tatum and have Mobley kind of be the help guy and just muck everything up in the paint. If you drive,
Kind of
you're
like the
helping
third
off.
quarter against Orlando yesterday.
Yeah,
in
because
terms
you're
of
helping
just-
off.
It was ugly for
Horford.
Orlando.
It's exactly what Milwaukee. It's a defensive strategy Milwaukee does, where they put Giannis as the free safety. And if you want to drive, well, okay, your big's going to be taken out by Brook Lopez, but you have Giannis Antetokounmpo flying out of nowhere to block shots.
Right.
Which I always like that strategy. The difference is Horford can't shoot, and you have to live with some open Horford threes if that's a defensive strategy you want to go with. But I think I'd much rather have Al Horford beat us from 3.
I
Then
agree.
have Tatum and Brown and White and Drew Holiday and the other guards they can bring in have a constant funnel to the rim.
Now-
And last thing, if you put Mobley on Tatum, Earl, you got no shot protection
at all.
because you
Yeah,
can't help. You
that's
can't
true.
help off Tatum.
Nope.
That's
So you have no rim protection. Your next tallest player on the court is 6'4".
And we
6'5".
saw how important rim protection was
Yeah,
in this
so
last
I
series.
wouldn't. If they're only going one big, I wouldn't put Mobley on Tatum because they will take Tatum out and they'll just run to the
Now,
straight line.
Mike,
drives.
let me ask for your basketball expertise on this. What will the Cavs do? Because I agree with you. I do think that's what they should do.
I think, and think's a key word, but I think Morris is going to start.
Really?
Yeah, I do actually.
He
but I'm not
gave
saying
some
it's
quality minutes.
Well, he did in Game 5. He gave you nothing in 6 and 7.
No, but I'm saying at times in the series, you could look at it and say, okay, I see why they went out and got him.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I just
And I think his role would be even more important in a Celtics series than it was against the Magic.
Yeah, I just think the way it matches up with how big the wings are for Boston. You just need you need size. I just think you need size, and if you go with Isaac, that you have 6'2 Donovan, 6'1 Darius, 6'4 Strus, and 6'5 Isaac.
Yeah, it's too small.
And I just think Boston's guards are so shifty and they'll get to the rim that if they find ways to get Mobley out, which if you only have one big, you'll find ways to, spread them out. If it is the other way, you could put Morris on Horford and use use Mobley, more as your free safety. I just think that makes it more difficult to score.
I think this.
So that's what I would go with. We'll see what JB does.
It's going to come down to, believe it or not, it's going to come down to offense. Like, the Cavs have not regularly scored over 100 points.
Well, I think that just twice in JB's playoff tenure.
And one of the things that you're gonna see in this, and we talk about rotations, who you gonna put Mobley on, who you gonna put, is you gonna have Isaac Okoro, Marcus Morris, you gotta realize something. Derek White is averaging 20 plus points in the playoffs. Tatum is getting 24, 25. Jaylen Brown is getting 23 a game. We didn't even talk about Porzingis. So yeah, like the worst nightmare for the Cavs is playing really solid defense the whole game, and then in the fourth quarter, a couple guys hit a couple threes and the game is over, right? Like you have to be able to if you got the Celtics down 5, you got to stretch that to 15. That got to be 15 because if it's anything close,
they'll erase it.
They can erase that like that.
Mike, I know we got to go, and just one last question for you. In my mind, anecdotally, teams that get stretched to 7, that have to go on the road for a game 1, get boat raced. In my mind,
it goes both ways because Boston hasn't played it'll be almost a week. It's the rest versus rust.
No, I know, but in this case, the reason I say that is because the way the Cavs series played out, hard fought. Game 6 took a lot out of them.
We don't
Game
got no
7
legs.
took a lot out of them. And the emotion. I mean, imagine the emotion of playing in that final 3 minutes of Game 7 and the opening tip in Boston. Like, it's kind of like, and we're seeing it right now with the Rangers and the Diamondbacks. Not so much the Rangers, but it's the post-World Series hangover is a real thing. You come into the next season, and because the last meaningful baseball you played was the most meaningful baseball you'll ever play in your life, try getting up for game 1, inning 1 in April the next year.
I'll say this.
It's tough.
And then we'll move on. And I told this to Earl this morning. I actually like the Cavs' chances earlier in this series better than I do late because there's only one day off between each game in the series.
I know.
And Donovan's playing on one leg.
Yep.
And I'm telling you, and Earl was there yesterday. If you guys were at the game, I'm not sure how much it shows up.
It showed on TV.
He's limping around, and that's what makes what he's done the last 2 games that much more special.
Yeah.
Because he's doing it on one leg. With so little time between each game, I don't know, and he's proven me wrong already. I didn't think he'd be able to do it in Game 7 after he did it in Game 6 with such a quick turnaround. How many more of these kind of performances does he have left?
Every other day? Like,
so,
at some point,
I think your best chance is to get him early.
Okay,
so I actually like the Cavs in Game 1 more than I do, theoretically speaking, into Game 5 on the road.
Okay.
Just because they're playing hot. Darius made the last shot. Hopefully that carries over.
Sure.
It didn't from Games 2 to 3 and 4, so I'm not saying it will, but I do think as the series goes on, it's tough going from a 7-game series to every other night against the juggernaut like the Celtics. But the Cavs are moving on.
One second.
We got playoff basketball heading into middle of May.
1 second, and then we'll really move on. I'm not joking every time I say this. Like, Mike is the best basketball mind in the city. My man is a savant. And, like, when you pair him and Jason Lloyd, UCSS has the best, like, Cavs coverage, best Cavs analysts in the city right now. Bro, keep doing your thing, man.
Yes, I'll second that.
Keep doing your thing.
I appreciate that.
Great job, Mike.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's talk a little Browns here, guys. But first, Monopoly Go. A reminder that if you don't use Monopoly Go, if you aren't playing Monopoly Go with your friends, you're missing out on some great times. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends for time tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. There are more to win together because there are more prizes to unlock with your friends. There's so much to get, including unique stickers that you can trade with friends to complete albums for big prizes, cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with, hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings and heist their vaults. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go, so get off the bench and go download it now for free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on. We'll talk Guardians in a sec, but I want to spend a few minutes on the Browns here. I was thinking over the weekend, Mahomes has dominated the NFL lately. He stopped a lot of good quarterbacks from winning Super Bowls, just like Jordan stopped a lot of good NBA players from ever winning an NBA championship. So when you look at the landscape of the NFL, who will be the next quarterback to win his first Super Bowl, and how high on that list does Deshaun Watson rank?
First, I want to commend you. This is a great topic.
Thank you.
This is a great topic, and I wish we had more time. Can we take more time? Because you had it slated to go till 25. That only
Yeah, we
gives
go a
us
little
6
longer
minutes.
because the Guardians.
Okay.
We can squeeze those
we
together,
can squeeze that on the back end. I put a lot of thought into this, and I'm going to go first because I know I have him lowest. I know for a fact I do. But it speaks to the current state of the NFL and where we are.
Okay.
I'm going to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 is where I have Deshaun Watson. Only 5 quarterbacks, and I counted starters, by the way. I'm not giving, I'm not going to say, oh, you were a backup on a Super Bowl team.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
Doesn't count.
No.
Led a team to a Super Bowl. There are only 5, which means there are 27, which means if you're 9th, you're in the top third.
Right.
I don't know where you guys had him, but this was a tough exercise for me because Brock Purdy, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Dak Prescott, Jordan Love. Anybody thinks that Jordan Love isn't the real thing, go back and watch that playoff game against Dallas. Even their loss the next week, watch that one.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts. Justin Herbert, I'm going to throw some money, and it's going to be a significant number on the Chargers to go to the Super Bowl. And I know that everybody's going to be like, what the hell? The Chargers, in my view, the last couple of years, failed because of their coach. They have the roster, they have the superstar, they have the team to be successful. But because of internal things and because of some in-game decisions, it all started with the decision to, we'll play you to a tie. Remember that?
Yeah.
Justin Herbert, 7. I struggled with this one. In fact, I did have Deshaun 8th, and then I bumped him to 9th because I think Tua, I don't know what Tua we're going to get, but I think Tua has so many weapons on offense that they might just 56-35 everybody in the conference. Mm-hmm. So that's my list. It starts with Brock at the top of it, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson. Those are 3 MVP type players.
Well, Lamar got 2 of them already.
Dak Prescott. Yeah, I mean, Purdy's been to the Super Bowl. Burrow's been to the Super Bowl. Jackson has lacked the playoff success, but he took another step last year. Who knows where they can go? I still think that they're – boy, here's the thing that sucks the most. 2 of my first 3 are in our division. And by the way, the other team that's not listed in our division has a guy that's already won a Super Bowl. So it's the AFC North. C.J. Stroud made this argument on his podcast. It might be the toughest division, not just in football this year. It might be the toughest division I've ever seen in the NFL.
Did you mention C.J. Stroud on your list, by the way?
C.J. Stroud was 10th for me.
Okay, he was
and
right behind. Okay.
That was very, very, very difficult. And if I was to make any change, it would be to put C.J. at 9 or at 8 against Tua and Deshaun Watson at 9.
I think your list is not bad. Your list is not bad. I think that I will have Deshaun probably maybe 2-3 spots higher.
Yeah.
Because it's funny, me and Anthony was doing this exercise last week. I tend to think that him and Justin Herbert is kind of like the same player. See, everybody talk about Deshaun Watson and his contract and his level of play not matching the money that he's making. Justin Herbert has not been balling out the last couple seasons. And Jay, I hear you. His coach probably put him behind the 8 ball. But that roster that we looked at last season and the season before that and said, man, like it's star-studded everywhere, most of those dudes is gone. Mike Williams is not there.
I know,
Keenan
that's
Allen
going to be a problem.
Khalil Mack, I'm pretty sure he won't be there by the time the season starts.
But he's got a coach coming in that damn near won a Super Bowl and did win a national championship last year.
Derwin James has not lived up to the expectations, whether due to injury or other things. When you look at the situation at Dallas, I think Dallas has a very talented team, but Dak Prescott seems to always shrink in these huge moments. I think when he put this exercise together, being Mike, I thought he did a great job because it's challenged you to look at this as an entire organization. The
Man,
roster,
there are some good quarterbacks out there.
Yeah, but when I look at, the first thing I did was let me put every single quarterback aside and let me compare the Cleveland Browns roster to a lot of these rosters with these quarterbacks who hadn't won a Super Bowl. And the Browns roster is easily, probably, top 2 or 3?
And by the way, we didn't say that in the setup, but that is to be taken into account.
Yeah, that's what's
the
to be
coach,
taken into account.
The current roster, all of that has to be added into your equation. We're not just saying in a vacuum which of these quarterbacks, because that's not fair.
Right.
You don't play in a vacuum.
Right. And so for me, it's like, okay, the defense got better as far as the coaching staff. You didn't really lose much, and the players that you replaced them with is probably better players. Miles just won Defensive Player of the Year. Ain't no telling where that type of motivation comes from. You got some new coaches on offense. You got Deuce Staley. You got Ken Dorsey in here to go with Kevin Stefanski, who's coming off his second
to me,
coach
that
of the year.
equals uncertainty. If it was still Stefanski calling the plays, we know what we have. Because we don't know what Ken Dorsey's going to look like, that was, to me, I couldn't say, well, last year we had great play calling. That doesn't carry over.
Now, see, Kevin said that him and Dorsey actually comes from the same family tree.
That's fine. That's all well and good, but we know their philosophies are different. We just know it.
Yeah.
Go look at what Ken Dorsey has done and look at what Kevin Stefanski has done.
For me, I think I will have Deshaun probably 7 or 6.
Okay.
Exactly where, I don't know. I think all I have is the last time I seen him.
Right.
And the last time I seen him, he was doing what elite quarterbacks do.
That was Houston Deshaun.
Right. And
now if we, and again, that's an assumption too. We don't even know what he's going to look like with the injury.
Yeah. But
you're right. If the exercise was based on the last half of football, all of these guys played, I don't know that you'd be hard pressed to not have Deshaun Watson in your top 3. Because he was perfect.
Yeah, I mean,
and he led a comeback on the road against one of the toughest teams in the entire league. What you got, G? Give us that Kool-Aid.
The list of integrity is now upon you. I got Burrow number 1. Reason I got Burrow number 1, his offense is intact. I think they got a running back that kid that they had that was spelling for Mixon. I think his name's Brown. I think he has more burst. The only problem with the Bengals is I think their defense is a little weaker. But if Burrow is healthy out there doing it, I think he's number 1. This is going to surprise a lot of people. Brock Purdy. The reason I got Brock Purdy at 2 is because Brock Purdy plays in the NFC, and his team is stacked. So Christian, we ain't got to run out of names. They got all of them. If they can figure out what Ayuk is doing, and they got Shanahan, one of the best coordinators, and I like what they got on defense. So I got them playing over there. I got Purdy. This is the highest. This is going to be. I got C.J. Stroud at 3.
Woo! Damn.
I got and listen. This is shout out to the Texans people out there because I told them he was a young pup. Listen, they got Nico Collins. They got your boy. They went and got Diggs. They done already got Tank Dell. They young. They got Mixon.
They got Anderson on defense.
They got a young, vibrant coach. But they gonna be a problem.
That's interesting, G. That you'd have him 3, because I struggled with C.J. Stroud. He to me was the mystery. Here's why he didn't get in the top 9. You know who else didn't get in the top 9?
Aaron Rodgers.
He didn't get in there either.
Well, he's won a Super Bowl, so
AFC, yeah, he's won a Super Bowl. These are guys that didn't win the Super Bowl. Trevor Lawrence 2 years ago was C.J. Stroud.
I got Trevor Lawrence in there. Who's like 9.
Remember, 2 years ago, we looked at Jacksonville, and we're like, AFC is going to have to deal with him for a long time. And they regressed. And I'm not predicting that Houston and CJ will regress, but I will say this, from talking to a lot of NFL coaches, general managers, and quarterbacks through the years, almost all of them that had first-year success, look at the ones recently, almost all of them, and I know Lawrence wasn't in his rookie year.
Look here.
Look here. Almost all of them, Baker Mayfield set rookie quarterback records, take a step back in year 2. Why? You got tape. The league knows how to prepare for you.
The reason I have them that highly ranked is because for me, a prerequisite of winning a Super Bowl in the AFC is you have to have at least one round of home games.
Yeah,
you look at what
that's
happened.
true.
You look what happened last year with the Browns. Browns had a better record than the Texans. Texans ended up with the game they getting blew out. Who feels like the Browns would have had a much better chance to win that football game? Everybody
at home.
So they play in a weaker division. They're going to play in a weaker division, and the Browns, at best, you go 4-2 in the division. So now that puts you at a position where you may necessarily make the playoffs, but you might not have a home game. And I'm going to give them the edge in the division that they play in.
Pause right there before you go. I feel you, but them winning that division or ended up with that home playoff game was worse so because of Jacksonville collapsing and not because
I agree
of them.
with that.
Because
Jacksonville had that on lock.
They controlled their own destiny.
And they fell asleep.
And they fell apart at the end of the season.
Last 4 games.
I hear you and how that ran, how that played out, but man,
also, what's Anthony Richardson going to be? You know what? We don't know.
Hey, Jacksonville, I like them, but they should have got them while they was young. they can come back next year. You should have beat them and had an opportunity. That's the way it works.
No, I know.
Necessarily.
Right.
Now they done got better, and they feel themselves a little bit. So I got C.J. Stroud in there, but it's close. Fourth, I got Lamar Jackson, but I got an asterisk on this. Lamar Jackson is fourth, which is very high on this list, but in my heart of hearts, I just don't believe it. And the reason is you've had 2 opportunities at home. The year you won MVP, you lost to the Tennessee Titans at home, and you got cute the same way you did against the Chiefs last year. You're a run team. You're predicated on a run. Y'all got nice stats all year. You're balanced. You look like a juggernaut, and then you get into the playoffs, and at home, you miraculously don't do what you need to do. And Lamar Jackson, when you're talking about these players, Lamar, to me, is the worst thrower out of these people.
I'll give you that.
So, fifth, I got Watson at 5.
Woo.
And I'm going to work backwards to say why. I think Jordan Love, who I have at 6, I like the Browns roster better than Packers. I got Dak Prescott at 7. I like the Dallas Cowboys roster, but I don't believe that Dak Prescott can win playoff games. He just hasn't shown me.
That's been his problem.
At 8, I got Josh Allen. I would have had Josh Allen switched with Jordan Love. I would have had them switched if they would have kept.
I didn't even have Josh Allen in my top 10.
Just one receiver.
Because I think their roster is
crazy.
What's that?
I don't necessarily disagree, but that's crazy. I didn't realize.
Well, last year when I said on this show that I thought I would take, I said I had Purdy in the top 5, and he said, who you putting out? And I said Josh Allen.
I wasn't a fan.
You've been consistent. You named all the quarterbacks.
Right.
I was like, oh,
he didn't even have them.
It's more so on the roster, though.
It's his roster.
More so on the roster. That's exactly right. They've had a significant loss.
Yeah.
A significant loss.
Now, Herbert.
And because of that, I don't have him in my top 10.
Herbert, I got at 9. And Herbert, I would have him higher if they would. I don't know what they're going to do at receiver, but I like the coach. I like the defense. I think they will be
They'll
marketed
figure
better.
it out.
They'll figure something out.
He with Colin Kaepernick, he got the Niners to the Super Bowl.
He did. I give him that. And then I got Trevor Lawrence rounding up at 10. But let me go back to why I got Watson at 5. If you look at the Browns roster compared to all those other people.
No, I'll give you that.
At 5, he already beat Lamar Jackson once. And he was hurt and hobbled. They're better at receiver.
You didn't have Tua on there, though.
I didn't have Tua.
And Miami's roster is...
The only reason I didn't have Tua on there over Trevor Lawrence was the simple fact that they lost some offensive linemen. They lost Lawrence, Dexter Lawrence in the middle. I think they got a little worse defensively. I like what they did. They got OBJ. They got Hill, Tyreek Hill. But when it get cold,
don't come north for a playoff game.
You're
don't
done.
come to Buffalo, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Baltimore.
None of that. No Kansas City. I got him at 5.
Can I think everybody made great cases. Can you ask Bull to do this when he's in? Because the whole time I'm doing this.
I'll text him right now.
I'm thinking about Bull and what his list would be. And would he have Burrow at 1? And would that be a homer move because he's a Bengal fan? Where would he have Purdy? I know when we had our famous disagreement on him, he wasn't high on Purdy. My opinion of Brock Purdy hasn't changed. I thought he was that dude when I said that I'd take him over Allen, and I still would take him.
He that dude until they play the AFC North.
Well, here's
and those matchups that we seen San Francisco play the AFC North, Brock Purdy was neutralized
we beat
every
them.
single time.
Baltimore beat him.
His receivers and him got the most solid rapport. He been playing with them dudes forever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You look at Purdy. He's had the same team, same receivers.
Right.
Even if you look at Watson and even C.J. Stroud a little bit, they're going to have to adjust. And the Stephon Diggs thing, that's a wild card. Like, he wants that ball. He's going to want the rock.
And he's going to tell you he wants
he's
that
gonna
ball.
want it. Like, you know what I'm saying? And obviously Deshaun Watson has not had a chance to play with Judy and some of the other guys. So we expected Jerry Judy to be great. But yeah, like that's a difference. I like teams that have solid guys that know where they're going to be at. And we've seen it with the Super Bowl with Burrow. We've seen it in Purdy.
I think if I'm discounting Deshaun Watson for anything, it's the fact that I do like this roster. I love this Browns roster. The problem I'm having getting him to 9 is, yes, I saw the Baltimore game, but I also saw the 11 and a half other games, because really it was only a half for Baltimore. And he wasn't even passing for 200 yards in those other games. It was just he took a half and he exploded, and then he's going into mothballs for 11 months. And we talked about the long layoff, and then we saw with our own eyes how it affected him. Now, there's going to be 11 months between meaningful snaps for Deshaun Watson. And I don't know what that looks like. So the more question marks I had when I was doing this exercise, the lower you went on my list.
And it's fair.
But roster was not one of the questions for this team.
It's fair, but here's the thing. And I love Joe Burrow, so I try not to take shots. But I think that because the injuries concerns with Deshaun Watson is there. But if you look at Joe Burrow's career,
he's had them.
Those injury concerns are starting to creep up too when it comes to him. His availability and his durability as well. And I honestly feel like that the Cleveland Browns got a better roster than the Cincinnati Bengals did.
I was on Sports for CLE.
It's a hot take.
And I said the same thing. I think Colin Cowherd, you'll see it on Ultimate Browns. Make sure I check that out at 5 o'clock.
Is he a guest today?
No, not Colin Cowherd. He's not a guest. If Colin Cowherd was a guest, I would be doing it at 2 o'clock.
Yo, did he? Wait a minute.
You said Colin Cowherd on 5 o'clock today.
Wait a minute.
Well, I was going to preface that and bring that back. Colin Cowherd had made some comments about the Browns,
and those will be discussed.
We're going to talk about that at 5 o'clock. Now,
he's never been a big Browns guy.
No. So, and here's the thing, and the reasons he gave for not liking the Browns, if you just pick the Browns and say, listen, I think the division is tough, I like this, that, and third, I wouldn't be mad at you,
right?
Because it's true. I think
the team that ends up finishing last place next year could also win the division.
Yes.
And I know everybody would say, well, that's Pittsburgh. They could win the division.
Joe Burrow is one more injury away from being Deshaun Watson injury prone.
He's real close. You're right.
Like let's not act like
he had the ACL.
He had the ACL.
Last year he had the leg,
the calf,
the
and
wrist.
then he broke the wrist. And then we talking about, listen, I mean, it's his throwing hand. Like, it wasn't like it was something opposite. Like, let's be clear. Like, that's a thing. And when you talk about the Steelers, I mean, Russell Wilson is a very divisive, like, you talk to somebody, they love him.
He's a wild card.
He's a wild card. You talk to somebody, say, 26 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. He didn't play that bad. But then you talk to somebody else and said he was horrible. They had to get rid of him. So for me, I think the fair question marks is this. When you mention him throwing for under 100 yards or 200 yards, and I think people don't drill down on this enough, I think Jimmy Haslam was like, nah, I don't care what we're going to do. We're going to throw for 3. And if we lose, I can imagine Jimmy Haslam being like, and if the games are kind of close for us throwing 3, this is the style of football we're going to play. Because I'm tired of watching everybody else's guys do specifically that. Especially, and I don't understand why people act like these guys aren't human. You moved away from Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield made the Pro Bowl. Right?
Won a playoff game.
Right? So let's not act like you traded, Texas traded C.J. Stroud. They beat you. They won a playoff game, right? Let's not act like these people ain't men with pride.
Sure, right.
Like, come on now. No, everybody is mature adults. No. Jimmy Haslam was like, listen, the reason why we're moving on from who we're moving on from, I like you, Kevin, but we got to get more explosive. I want to see the ball thrown. And
particularly how we lost in the playoffs. I
Yes.
want to look like that. And by the way, that can be a dangerous game they play.
Oh, that's a very dangerous game.
Because the target that you're shooting for on what wins in the NFL, even though we think that we're settled on passing, it's a moving target.
Yeah, it is.
And we've seen that over the last couple of years, how the offense has gone down, the defense has come back. Be careful if you're shooting at a target that might be old by the time you hit it.
In games that he started and finished last year, Deshaun Watson threw for at least 213 yards in every game except for one. He threw for 154 against Cincinnati.
Okay, those aren't big numbers, though.
Yeah, I know, but he also had, this is another thing. He never had a game to where he threw for more interceptions than touchdowns, if in case you want to count the Indy game. So I think that if Deshaun Watson is healthy, I think Deshaun going to ball. I have no rhyme or reason outside of my fandom. Just my gut feeling.
It's fair.
I got nothing to back it up, but just in my gut, I think if Deshaun Watson is healthy, he's going to ball his ass off.
Well, that's what I want. And when I was doing this, I wanted him to be first on the list.
Yeah.
But I had to take into account everything, including the Baltimore half, but the other 11 and a half games that he's played in Cleveland as well.
Yeah, I don't
and has had a pretty damn good roster for all of them.
It's funny because I agree with both of y'all during the segment. One, I don't think Lamar Jackson sucks at throwing the football, and two, I don't think Joe Burrow is number one.
I think
injuries.
that was hyperbole.
No, I don't think he sucks. He said
he's the worst.
The men he mentioned, he was the worst thrower of the football, and I agree with that.
I don't.
I mean, I think the numbers would probably
Watson,
back it up.
Jordan Love, Dak Prescott, Josh Allen, Herbert, or Lawrence. I think people would say when it comes to passing, those guys are better natural passers of the football.
What clouds your perhaps judgment is that we've seen Lamar make throws that he's the only guy in the league that can make them.
Maybe that's my problem.
And so what he can do in terms of skill set is probably first in the league.
Playmaking?
Because what he can do with his legs, nobody else can come close to.
Stay down there somewhere, and I know he can get it there.
If you say playmaker, he's number one on the list.
I would agree with that.
Bull is currently typing. He said you'll have it by the end of the show. So I'll
Awesome.
give you guys Bull's answer at the end of the show.
And he's doing it in a vacuum, right? He wasn't watching us.
No, he's not watching. And
Good.
I said, look at the exact prompt I sent in the rundown chat
Awesome.
and answer that question.
Make
We're
sure
going to talk Guardians.
Yeah. Make sure y'all be ready to hate on that when y'all in the chat.
We'll do that. We'll do super chats at the end. I'll give you Bull's list. Quick reminder that FanDuel is the official sportsbook partner of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. And right now, it's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL. And FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and much more. Visit FanDuel.com/UCSS and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And today's winning ticket comes from Shane Garrett, who emailed us a winning ticket yesterday. He won $321 by betting $5 on the Guardians game yesterday. He had Josh Naylor and Jose to both hit a home run and both driving 2 RBIs.
Wow.
It both happened, and Shane Garrett turned $5 into $321. So kudos to Shane for that. We're going to switch the order of the Guardians topics. I want to start with Manzardo, then we'll talk Kwan. But Kyle Manzardo was called up because Steven Kwan is headed to the 10-day IL, expected to make his Major League debut either tonight or sometime during the series against Detroit. Jay, what are your expectations for the Guardians' top hitting prospect as he gets ready to make his real Major League debut?
Yeah, big. As part of your question in our note overnight, you had said, is he the next face of the Guardians?
I wanted to ask that next, so yeah. Perfect.
Okay, so I kind of merged my answer.
Perfect.
I think I have huge expectations. Let me read some of the numbers this guy's put up. And this is, we haven't seen him in the majors other than spring training, where if you look at what he did in spring training, I was pretty impressed with it. You see, he had like 387 in 13 games. He right now is widely regarded as the second best prospect in the Guardians organization. He is top 50, but low end of that in all of Major League Baseball. I think that's low.
I do too.
And here's why I think that's low. These numbers are from the past. In his last 14 games at the highest level of minor league baseball for the Columbus Clippers, AAA, in his last 14 games, this is crazy, he has 8 home runs and 6 doubles. That's a power swing in each of his last 14 games. He has 14 RBI in his last 14 games in Columbus. He is proven all he can prove at AAA. Now, I know the debate about bringing him up is, what are you going to do with him? So you need a roster spot. You've got some guys that have proven to have value, but you're keeping them around for the slim role that they play. Mm-hmm. Okay? Ramon Laureano is a guy that you like because he can hit righties. But, my God, I'm pretty sure he's hitting below 200, and he's a good pinch hitter to bring it off the bench because it gives you options when you start playing the matchup game. But to keep him on the roster, they're doing it because they're paying him $8 million. But if you're just putting what you think is the best team, the best 25 guys from your organization on the field, you can't make an argument for him not being in that group. Nope. Other than we don't know what he's going to be once he gets to the big leagues. I think it's going to take him some time. He's not going to hit at that pace when he gets here. He's going to DH and first base platoon with, not platoon, they're going to both play every day, but some days he'll be at first base, some days he'll be at DH. I know from being in Arizona for spring training, the organization was a little concerned about his footwork at first base and his defense. I give Josh Naylor so much credit. He's done two things in the last 2 years that we almost never see. He turned his two deficits into two strengths. He couldn't hit left-handed pitching. He's one of their best hitters in their entire lineup against left-handed pitching, and bumped his batting average against lefties up 100 points. And he became a good defensive first baseman. He was a liability at first base when they first put him there. You've got to have him in the lineup every day. I think that between Manzardo and Josh, you've got two big pieces of lumber in the lineup every day. You can't overlook that anymore. He's being called up because they've got an injury spot. They've got a spot on the roster open because of the injury, which let's hope it's not serious, to Steven Kwan. But the only way he's not the future face of the organization is if this number one overall pick that they get to exercise later this month ends up being major league ready before people think. Okay. And if it ends up being that guy from Florida, I think he's major league ready right now. So the only way Manzardo's not the future face of the organization is if this future number one pans out to be everything you think he can be.
This is how I'm going to start this off, because when I seen this in the rundown, I kind of had a question for you. He's here because Kwan got hurt, right?
Yeah.
And so my question to you is, where's he going to play? Because I started doing some research. My man has never played in the outfield
No, he
before.
won't. Will Brennan's going to go to right.
Okay.
And you'll see him in right more often than probably not. And we don't even know. Kwan's on the 10-day DL. So right now it's 10 games.
Okay.
In my mind, Manzardo, it's not position, it was a roster spot.
Okay.
You've got Laureano, who you just can't release because he's paid $8 million. Now, you can designate him. If he's not claimed, then you keep him, and then he would just go to Columbus. But it was more, what are we going to do with all of these pieces that we're trying to figure out where they fit? I don't really care about that anymore.
If he made his major league debut tonight against Detroit, is he the DH or the first baseman? And
either or.
And then how low in the lineup are you having him?
I wouldn't put any pressure on him at all. I'd put him 7. I'd have him low in the lineup.
I can't wait to see him play.
I can't either.
On this level.
I mean, just based on what he's done in the last 14 games, this guy's going to be a star.
Yeah. He's one of the hottest hitters in the entire minor leagues.
You could make the
Maybe
point
the
he's
hottest.
the hottest hitter in baseball.
Maybe the
right
hottest.
Now, I will say this. There is, even though everybody looks at it as, well, it's the highest level of baseball, of professional baseball that's not MLB. Fact. But what this really drives home the difference in between is the pitching at a AAA level and a major league. He's seeing Oakland A's type pitchers every day. You're going to get fat on that if you're a major league hitter, which he is. I think, you may want to call up his numbers, but I think Miles Straw's beating the hell out of the ball down there, which he should. He's seeing bad pitching every night. So, or young, inexperienced pitching. So I just think that
Miles Straw is hitting 232.
No. Okay, never mind. I thought I looked at some of his splits the other day, and I was like,
B.
wow,
Nah.
Straw's getting it. What's his OPS?
635.
Okay.
It's average.
It's okay.
You expect a guy
Well,
who's
because
played
it
in the
was
league-
Straw, I expected to be in the
Yes.
in the fours.
It's gonna have to be. It's gonna have to be either Florial or Laureano.
And that's the problem. Florial, I'm pretty sure, because of the way they got him, they have to keep him on the roster all year. Wasn't he a Rule 5 guy?
Yeah, he's a Rule 5 guy.
So,
So-
if you
If you
drop
set
him,
him down,
off
you
the
can't bring him
25-man
back.
roster,
He's gone.
he's gone.
Gone.
He's gone.
Well, he's batting
So-
200.
Well, what you want to do, though, is you want to make sure
That-
that's who he is.
Yeah, yes.
And how do you do that? At bats.
But,
Not 20, not 50, 100.
And whether they want to admit it or not, the Josh Bell move, they're like,
Oh, it hurt.
the catcher. Last
Zanino
year,
was even worse.
Zanino. So that's two. So they got two last year. So now you got Laureano. That's $8 million. They've
They've got another $4 million in Miles Straw down in Columbus right now.
So now-
if they end up DFA, if and I'm not saying
Go ahead.
that's going to happen, but if Laureano ends up in Columbus, you've got $12 million worth of players
for a team that don't spend no money.
for a team that's got the lowest payroll or one of in baseball.
And so, believe it or not, trust me, it's like having that budget meeting when I want them Jays, man. We at the coffee table and they like, whoa. You got all this money sunk into these cars. You can't get no Jays, especially if they ain't working. See what I'm saying?
They're on the DL.
They're on the
They're
DL
in
right
Columbus.
now. They're in Columbus. $12 million. So that's why they like, well, listen, we're going to make sure. We're going to be oversure. That's why Manzardo is where he is right now. Not because he can't play, because of that $12 million that they don't want to part in
That's
AAA.
the elephant in the room.
That's it.
I just can't. I mean,
I know.
I know.
I know where you're going.
I just can't wait. Like, you got Kyle, you got Gabriel Arias, you got Bo. Like, you got all these young prospects that I've heard of for the Guardians probably for the last 3 or 4 years.
And they're here.
And they're here now. Like, my boy Bo hit a grand slam the other day.
Which on Friday I said he should be in
He need
Akron.
that.
Yeah,
He
Bo.
need that.
I mean, he's hitting like 170 something.
right.
I'm like, this guy's hitting like he
And
belongs
then,
in Akron.
and then I said, Austin Hedges is getting that bat, and he hits a home run.
Yeah.
My mom is jumping up and down in the living room. I told you Austin Hedges. I said, Mom, don't tell me about Hedges.
And that's okay. We had a chat about it. I think Anthony quickly texted out because I saw it when he hit the home run. I said, "Bull text in 5, 4, 3," and it was Anthony that sent it.
Yeah.
Well,
But
I
Bull
was sitting
said-
at the game, and it went right over my head.
Oh, that's hilarious. I wish you would have caught it. That would have been an all-time epic moment.
That
That
would have
Austin
been.
Hedges look like. But Bull did not disappoint. He chimed in instantly and he goes, well, that means he's not due to hit another one until July.
Speaking of Bull, he sent me his list, 14 deep, so we'll get to that in a sec.
That's typical Bull.
I do want to
I
ask
knew he would go.
Steven Kwan, though.
Okay.
Manzardo's here, Steven Kwan to the IL. It's a hamstring
One other
injury.
thing, quickly, hold that thought.
Okay, one thing.
Quickly, I put this in my notes. I want to say it. I killed the Guardians last year when they traded Aaron Savali. I was pissed.
You
Why?
were.
He was basically their ace.
you was hot.
They were in the race. They
You
were
was
2
hot.
games out behind the Minnesota
Yeah.
Twins, and they said, take our best pitcher. And I was hot.
Tito was hot too.
I love that trade today because Aaron Savali is 2-2 with a 6.14. That's early. ERA. That's the worst of any year he's had in his career. And he hasn't looked like Aaron Savali, although his strikeout, he's still striking out at over 1 per 9 or 1 per inning. But I love that trade.
But I mean,
But that's what a fan is. You're knee jerk.
He could eat some innings for us, couldn't he? Right now.
Yeah, he
The
could.
Guardians
He
could use both Manzardo
he would-
and Savali.
But here's the thing. I love that trade based on what Manzardo's done in the minor leagues. He may come up and he may hit until August 1st, 190. I don't know.
That's
No
okay.
one knows.
I'm fine with that.
But here's a guy who when I talked to him in spring trade, what jumped out at me is he's from Idaho. And I said, bro, how many major leaguers has Idaho produced? And he's like, man, maybe only like a handful, 3 or 4. And he named them, and they were all like kind of role guys. And I go, so you're used to beating the odds then? He goes, well, I haven't beat them yet, but I'm going to. And I loved that. It was just like, This kid is quietly confident. He's not your typical MLB player. Very quiet guy. And he's from Idaho.
Yeah.
And he sounds
He
like a
also
good
does
player.
not look like a guy who could be the
No,
face.
he does not.
Well, hopefully his play overrules
He's got
that.
the must.
What you trying to say, McNuggets?
Just if you
Just
see
leave it alone. Leave it alone.
No, he doesn't. When he
He's like,
walked in the room,
"Don't do that, don't do that,
literally when he
don't do
walked
that."
in the room, I thought to myself, Oh, I'm getting punked right now by Curtis. Curtis
We love Curtis.
gave a jersey
Shout out to Curtis.
to one of the equipment guys and told him to go in there and pretend you're Kyle Manzardo. He won't know.
You would believe
He
it.
look like the manager at Whole
I do-
Foods or something
Earl,
like that.
Earl, real
Yeah.
quick. 2 minutes on Kwan,
Manager
and then
at
we'll
Whole
get the Super Chats and Bulls list. But Steven Kwan to the 10-day IL. Jay, it's a hamstring injury for a player who plays the style that Steven
that's
Kwan
concerning.
plays.
Very
It doesn't seem like a big concern, but 10-day, but it's a hamstring. Are you more concerned than what the actual prognosis initially came out
I
as?
always lean on my son when it comes to hamstring injuries because he had them. He had them early in his career before he learned that he was getting them because of his gait, how he was running. He had to scientifically break down his gait and relearn how to sprint. They can be devastating. They can be they're nagging for sure. You know, I've had them.
I've had them,
probably,
yeah.
We probably all had hamstrings.
Yeah.
The truth is, I always used to ask my son, well, how do they get better? Rest.
Nothing.
That's it.
Sitting there.
Now, what grade is it? Where is it? That's what's going to determine. But you're right, and I'm glad you put that in the question. For the kind of player he is, when he went out, he had 3 distinctions. He had more hits than any hitter in the American League. He had a higher average than anybody in the American League. And this was a major league best. He hadn't struck out in 74 at-bats.
It's crazy.
Best in all
That's
of baseball.
crazy.
His game is predicated on his running. He runs the bases well. He plays the outfield. He plays left field really like a center fielder because he runs so well. So I'm very concerned because I don't know. I haven't talked to him. It could be a tweak. Tweaks get better in a couple weeks, but it will be there until February of next offseason.
It's almost, I don't want to say this, it's a blessing in disguise because you wouldn't see Manzardo if it was not
You're right.
for this
That's the
injury.
silver
Boy
lining
was
here.
hot. Boy had a tweet and he was all the way right. He said, "Man, that's no reason or excuse why he should be called up. Now he should have been up here before Kwan got
Well,
hurt."
again, I know that Bull. I agree with Bull. But Manzardo should be on this roster. He's better than guys on this roster. But building a 25 is like building a puzzle. And if the piece doesn't fit, it doesn't finish
fit.
the puzzle.
Especially
And
'cause of that
because of
bag.
the roster, because of Laureano's salary,
Bags.
and because they're trying to get looks at certain guys that otherwise they lose, if they drop him off the roster, he's gone. So they're going to have to make a decision. If Kwan comes back and Manzardo rakes, he's going to make this easy on the Guardians.
Right.
If he goes 1 for 14 or 1 for 24, he's going to make it really, really easy on them.
Yeah.
But if he rakes and hits a home run and knocks in runs, the Guardians then are going to have to make a decision. And it's going to be a tough pill to swallow, whatever it is. But on the Kwan thing, I wish I could talk to him or talk to someone on the staff about what grade is it and how severe do they think it is. Clearly, the hope for them is that he'll be back in 10 days. That would tell me it's a low grade and it's minor. But if this extends and he's out for longer, that could be an issue for the season. And
Yeah.
that would terrify me because you want to find out how important a leadoff guy is to your lineup, take him out of it.
Does Manzardo get a hit in his first game in the big
I would,
leagues?
if I'm betting on FanDuel, I would say yes. I would say because he's swinging a bat and your adrenaline is up here. And from what I've seen of him, he's a disciplined. He has good plate discipline. He's not going to dive at a lot of pitches. First thing these guys are going to do is find out how big his zone is.
Yep.
So they're not going to pitch in the heart of the zone. They're going to hit edges and even off. See if he can.
We got
off.
Super Chats and Bulls list here to wrap up the show. First Super Chat comes from Brody's Bottom Line. He wants to tell us, we got to pump the brakes on Boston. Miami played with 1 starter. Boston can lose at home. Dontavius Winston says Niang needs to never touch the floor again, please. And
Who's that?
Armac
Dontavius
Dog,
Winston?
Dontavius Winston.
Dontavius
yes.
Winston.
Great name.
Boy,
And
crazy,
Armac
man.
Dog says, let them know we coming. This was a great team win for the Cavs. For the panel, do you guys think the Cavs will now play every game like it's win or go home and take the C's
You can't.
to 7 without Jared Allen?
Yeah, you can't.
No.
You die. You die in Game 3 if you played all of them like you have to play Game 7.
I don't
Hell,
think,
the Cavs only did that for a half.
I don't think I don't think it works that way. Like you don't know you can lift a car until your child's strapped under it.
That is such a great. That is the best
That's a
analogy
fact.
I've ever heard.
That's a fact. You ain't got no kids. That's
I ain't got
crazy.
no kids.
No, but you're absolute.
He's right.
That is. It's a gear you didn't know you had
Yeah.
until you need it.
And
Yeah.
you can't use that all the time.
That is such a great
Bulls
analogy.
list. Do you want to go
That's
1
quote
to
board
14
material.
or 14 to 1?
14-1.
So backwards.
Yeah, let's do it.
What was the question?
Bulls
Oh, yeah,
list.
go backwards.
14 Tua.
Okay.
13 Trevor Lawrence.
Okay.
12 Dak Prescott.
Ooh, wow. He's got
11 Kirk Cousins.
didn't make my top
10
10.
Jordan Love.
Okay, I had a
9 Justin Herbert. 8 Deshaun Watson.
My list is very similar to his.
7 Jalen Hurts.
Wow.
6 Josh Allen. 5 Lamar. 4 Stroud. 3 Burrow. 2 Purdy. 1 Jared Goff.
Wow, Jared Goff.
Goff.
Jared Goff didn't make our list.
Wait a minute.
I don't know if you can see this. Will this zoom in? That's Jared Goff number 1, Purdy 2, Burrow 3.
Now, look, his roster's tight.
If Washington
He's
The
got a
way
great
all
head
three of us
coach.
looked at each other with the pause, it was like, Jared Goff.
Yeah. Well, hey, if the Rams win the Super Bowl, he can dance on our grave.
Yeah, you're right.
But boy,
You mean the Lions?
I'm talking. Where did he have Deshaun?
8.
I had him 9th.
He had C.J. Stroud 4.
He and I were really well aligned, except for his number 1, and he had Prescott not even in his top.
And yeah, he had Josh Allen instead of Prescott in his
Yeah.
top 10. That was the switch.
Which I knew we would disagree on because he said he still thinks Allen is Allen.
We got a fun baseball topic coming up, Pro T. See you then.